Let us pray. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of rulers and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humankind, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important tasks in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. All which we ask in the name and for the sake of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. I have some announcements. The first, I have to inform the House that I have received an adverse report from the Parliamentary Legal Committee on the Public Service Amendment Bill HB 8 2025. I also have to inform the House that Parliament received the following petitions. The first one, on Tuesday, 28th October 2025, Parliament received a petition from the Young Planners Network requesting Parliament to enact legislation that provides for the registration and standards of urban planners and aligns with planning legislation. The petition has since been referred to the Portfolio Committee on Local Government, Public Works, and National Housing. Second, On Thursday, the 6th November 2025, Parliament also received a petition from the Dande Heritage Conservation Syndicate requesting Parliament to urgently review Section 6 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe to include the Kore language as one of the official languages of Zimbabwe. The petition has since been referred to the Joint Portfolio Committee on Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs and the Thematic Committee on Culture and Heritage. Third, on Monday, the 27th October 2025, Parliament received a petition from the Weza District Rate Payers. The petitioners besieged Parliament to uphold their resolution to stop paying rates to Weza Rural District Council until their grievances have been resolved. The petition was deemed inadmissible as it dealt with matters which are outside the jurisdiction of Parliament. And fourth, on Tuesday, the 4th November 2025, Parliament received a petition from a Mr. Emmanuel Koslati MOYO, beseeching Parliament to review the remuneration and conditions of service for all councillors and mayors in Zimbabwe. The petition was also deemed inadmissible as it dealt with matters which are outside the mandate of Parliament. I have received a request from Honorable Bajila on a point of national interest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. My point of national interest relates to the ongoing interviews of aspiring nurses that are happening across the country at respective nursing schools. I appreciate, Mr. Speaker, the point that was raised by the Minister last week on Wednesday during the time for questions without notice. But, Mr. Speaker, the process and procedures by which we have been recruiting our nurses has been going through lots of changes within a short space of time. The current change that we have seen is the one application for the entire year, where applicants who would like to get in during the January or May or September intakes have to apply at once, and the interviews get conducted at once, such that those who will not make it in January will then be informed whether they are making it in May or in September. Mr. Speaker, it is important for us to note two things. The first one is that there are possibilities of some of the shortlisted who will not get into January, but shortlisted for May or September, to find other opportunities between that period. And therefore, that space which have been reserved for them for that specific intake will then be left vacant. The processes by which those spaces will be filled remain unclear. But also, Mr. Speaker, we note that the changes that have happened over the past few years have seen the nursing application process move from the physical applications that we knew, and then early 2020, it moved to online applications, and back to physical applications now, with the systems for local interviews coming on board now. I believe, Mr. Speaker, that there must be a science that informs these kinds of changes, and it will be important for the Minister of Health and Childcare to bring the nation into his confidence around the issues of these changes, as well as around how the gaps between January, May, and September will be covered. To that end, Mr. Speaker, I would like to request that the Minister of Health and Childcare be invited to present a statement, to present a ministerial statement on the issue of how government is conducting the nursing interviews, the changes that we have gone through, how have they been influencing or impacting on efficiency and better service delivery. To that extent, Mr. Speaker, I think that once there is clarity from the minister and points of interventions come from members of parliament, much of the questions that we get from our constituencies will disappear. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The request is granted, and we shall act accordingly. Are there any notices of motion? Yes, Honorable Ziambi.
Yes.
I know you to be sitting somewhere in that side. Why have you relocated here? What are you running away from that side? Huh? Please proceed. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I would like to give notice that on Thursday, the 20th of November, 2025, this House considers and adopts the report of the Portfolio Committee on Youth Empowerment, Development and Vocational Training on the state of vocational training centers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Any further notices of motion? Honorable Mateo.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to give notice that tomorrow this House considers and adopts the report of the public accounts of the 2022 and 2023 Auditor General's reports on the appropriation and fund accounts for the Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development. Furthermore, I also want this House to consider and adopt the report of the public accounts of the 2022 Auditor General's report on the appropriation and fund accounts for the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion. Thank you.
Thank you. I think your reports of the PAC now will be numbering somewhere around the 22. And where are the treasury minutes? Where are the treasury minutes?
We have requested to the Ministry of Finance that they do. We have given a deadline.
Pardon?
We have given them a deadline for them to submit.
What's the deadline?
Treasury minutes. That is by the 15th of December.
When we are on our way out for Christmas.
Yes, but I think it's important if they are presented before the House is adjourned.
Yeah, I would have preferred that they are presented much earlier, because they've been outstanding for a while now. Because we need to know what corrective action the executive intends to take to correct issues accordingly. The clerk will read the first order of the day.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
To clarify one thing, I heard you asking Honorable Ziambi why he is sitting here. We just for order and and coordination purposes, we requested that chairpersons be where they are visible, so that if we want to coordinate on anything, or you will see that these three rows are dedicated to chairpersons. So they won't be there where we don't see them.
Will that be the hierarchy in heaven?
It's not a hierarchy as such, but sometimes when you want to quickly check on something, you have to look somewhere in the tickets and you don't see your chairperson.
A good strategy, accept it. It's a good strategy, accept it. Accept it. I said this. Is there anything else, Government Chief Whip? Is there anything else, Government Chief Whip? Because you're still upstanding. Okay. Right. The clerk will read the first order of the day.
Second reading, Zimbabwe School Examinations Council Amendment Bill HB 4 of 2025.
I call upon the Honorable Minister to speak and move that the bill be now read a second time.
Good afternoon, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move the order that the Zimbabwe School Examinations Amendment Bill be read a second time. Honorable Speaker, I rise to present the second reading speech on the Zimbabwe School Examinations Council Amendment Bill HB 4 2025. Suffice to say, this bill seeks to amend the Zimbabwe School Examinations Act, Chapter 25.18, which was enacted in 1994. Since then, there have been a number of developments in the education sector, and this has necessitated redressing of certain anomalies that have come to the attention of the Zimbabwe School Examinations Council and the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. It is therefore in this regard that the amendments have to be made so that it is aligned to the Principal Act, thereby making it more relevant and applicable in the present day dictates. The Zimbabwe School Examinations Council Amendment Bill would thus amend the Act by providing repeals and substitutions in a number of sections in order to suit the current socio-economic and political landscape, as well as accommodating new policies. Rationale for amendment. The rationale behind this amendment, Honorable Speaker, is to ensure that standards within the examination system are raised. Basically, the amendment seeks to achieve the following. A, give the Zimbabwe School Examinations Council, Zimsec, the ability to deregister examination centers that are not compliant with Zimsec set standards of appropriate examination centers subject to regulations to be gazetted under Section 36 of the Act. In this regard, Section 36 of the Act empowers the Minister to make regulations after consultation with the Zimsec board, prescribing all matters that are required or permitted by the Act to be prescribed, or which are, in the opinion of the Minister, necessary or convenient to be prescribed for carrying out or giving effect to the Act. These include the approval and registration of examination centers. B, strengthen the efficiency of the Zimsec board by equipping it with requisite skilled personnel from the audit, human resources, finance, information and technology, IT, and risk management, whose skills will assist Zimsec board to efficiently execute its mandate. C, give the Zimsec board the responsibility to use its discretion to appoint finance committee members who are suitable for the efficient discharge of the mandate of the committee from among its members. D, to change the Zimsec fiscal year end from 30 June to 31 December of each year in line with the obtaining government financial year end. E, provide additional offenses and penalties for breach of the Act and to further list acts of examination malpractices and the penalties or fines that they attract. F, to also provide for imposition of penalties on institutions for examination irregularities. In conclusion, the Zimbabwe School Examinations Council Amendment Bill, once enacted into law, will go a long way towards improving the quality and credibility of examination services and also enforce stiffer penalties to the culprits implicated in examination-related offenses in the country. I so submit, Honorable Speakers.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The question before the House is a motion by the Honorable Minister of Primary and Secondary Education that the Zimbabwe School Examinations Council Amendment Bill HB 4 2025 be now read a second time. Is there any debate?
Honorable Speaker,
Are you the chairman?
I'm representing the chairperson.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to present the reports of the Portfolio Committee on Primary and Secondary Education on the Zimsec School Examination Council, Zimsec Amendment Bill HB 4 2025. Honorable Speaker, the Portfolio Committee on Primary and Secondary Education to undertake public hearings on the bill. This is the report that I'm going to present on behalf of the Portfolio Committee. The Zimbabwe School Examination Council, Zimsec Amendment Bill, gazetted on June 2025, on 6 June 2025, represents a critical legislative intervention aimed at overhauling the Zimsec Act, Chapter 25.18 of 1994. This initiative is driven by an urgent need to restore public confidence in the national examination system, which has been severely compromised by recurrent examination paper leakages, systemic malpractices, and the perceptions of inefficiency and corruption. The bill seeks to modernize Zimsec governance structures, enhance the security and integrity of examinations, align the legislation with the Constitution of Zimbabwe, and introduce stringent measures to deter and punish malpractice. This report details the findings from nationwide public consultations and provides the committee's definitive observations and recommendations. Methodology. On 17 July 2025, the committee convened a half-day workshop aimed at capacitating members of Parliament with a comprehensive understanding of the provisions contained in the Zimsec Amendment Bill HB 4 2025. The workshop was attended by key stakeholders, including officials from the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, the Zimbabwe School Examination Council, Zimsec, and representatives from civil society organizations, namely the Education Coalition of Zimbabwe, ECOS, and the Zimbabwe Teachers Association, ZIMTA. In compliance with Section 141 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, the Portfolio Committee conducted public hearings across the country's 10 provinces to facilitate inclusive participation in the legislative process. These consultations ensured that the views of citizens, educators, and stakeholders were captured and considered. The committee deployed 2 teams to conduct public hearings in all 10 provinces from 24 to 30 August 2025. Team A covered Gweru, Masvingo, Mutare, and Marondera, while Team B covered Lupani, Gwanda, Bulawayo, Chinhoyi, and Benura. On 5 September 2025, the committee rescheduled another public hearing in Harare. The process actively engaged teachers' unions, school heads associations, National Association of Secondary School Heads, that is NASH, and the National Association of Primary School Heads, that is NAF, university representatives, civil society, parents, students, and members of the general public, ensuring a holistic and representative sample of national opinion. Summary of findings, general submissions. The first submission, the public widely acknowledged the timeliness and the necessity of the bill to address the crisis of confidence in the national examination system. Stakeholders supported the overarching goals of enhancing governance, integrity, and accountability at Zimsec. The second submission, a recurring general concern was the call for Zimsec to ensure the timely payment of all examination personnel, including invigilators, markers, and examiners, as delayed payments were cited as a major demoralizing factor and a risk to examination integrity. Thirdly, members of the public strongly questioned the requirement for learners to pay examination fees, widely criticizing it as a barrier to accessing education. Referring to Section 75 of the Constitution, which guarantees every child the right to free basic education, many contributors argued that imposing examination fees undermined this constitutional entitlement, particularly for vulnerable and disadvantaged learners. Stakeholders from private educational institutions expressed concern over the annual registration fee of $2,500 US dollars imposed by Zimsec. They argued that this fee was excessively high and failed to reflect the operational realities of most private schools in Zimbabwe, which often functioned as community-driven initiatives rather than elite institutions like Peterhouse or Falcon College. Members of the public also raised concerns about the unequal examination fee structure, where candidates from private schools were charged significantly more than those in public schools. It was argued that such a differentiation was unjustified, as all learners, regardless of the institution they attended, were citizens entitled to equal treatment under national education policy. Highlights of participants' views on the bill clauses. Clause 2. The majority of participants supported this change, recognizing it as a necessary step to align Zimsec's leadership structure with the Public Entities Corporate Governance Act, Chapter 10.31. Submissions indicated that the title CEO carries a clear mandate for performance-based accountability and results-oriented leadership. However, significant concerns were raised regarding the financial implications, fearing the change would necessitate a substantial increase in salary and benefits, potentially straining Zimsec's budget. It was also noted that the change was not consistently applied throughout the Principal Act. For example, Section 19. Some stakeholders proposed elevating the position to the stature of a university vice chancellor to grant the CEO grade greater operational autonomy. Clause 3. This was unanimously welcomed, especially by teachers' unions. The expansion of the definition to include modern threats such as the use of electronic devices, script tampering, and sender-level collusion was deemed essential. However, the blanket minimum 2-year imprisonment sentence was criticized by most stakeholders for failing to distinguish between minor offenses, for example, a student bringing unauthorized material, and gross malpractice, for example, organized leakage. For that reason, the public strongly advocated for a tiered penalty system, minor, moderate, gross, with graduated punishments that allow for judicial discretion, especially for youth offenders. Clause 4. This new power was widely applauded as Zimsec's most potent tool for ensuring sender compliance and integrity. However, some participants expressed deep apprehension about granting Zimsec such unchecked power with no provision for an appeal process, fearing arbitrary or malicious deregistration that would punish innocent students. It was overwhelmingly suggested that the bill must incorporate a transparent, fair, and independent appeals process, such as an appeal to an independent tribunal or the permanent secretary. Clause 5. The move to broaden the board's composition to include skill-based members, law, audit, ICT, human resources, disabilities, and representatives from all state universities was praised as a step towards professionalization. However, some members of the public viewed the proposed composition as lacking adequate representation from the primary and secondary education sector. As a result, there was a consensus that the board must include principals from teachers' colleges, representatives from the private school sector. It was further proposed that all appointments must be publicly advertised and subjected to parliamentary vetting to ensure transparency and merit. Clause 6. This clause was criticized for being unacceptably vague, failing to specify the committee size or composition. The provision allowing the appointment of non-board members was seen as a risk of chronism and unnecessary expenditure. It was therefore stressed that the clause should be amended to specify a small committee size, 3 to 5 members, composed primarily of main board members. Clause 7. The bill introduces new offenses to strengthen examination integrity, such as falsifying examination material claims and altering scripts. While these measures were welcomed, the proposed 2 to 5 year sentences were deemed too lenient. Stakeholders called for a mandatory 10-year sentence for Zimsec insiders who leak examination materials. The bill also introduces a novel provision targeting institutions implicated in examination irregularities. However, concerns were raised about the impact on learners if entire schools are deregistered. The public recommended targeting individual offenders instead to protect students while ensuring accountability. There was a strong and consistent call for Zimsec to enhance its examination security protocols. Members of the public emphasized the need for robust systems that can effectively prevent examination paper leakages, which have undermined the credibility of national assessments in recent years. Clause 8. The proposal to increase the number of board meetings from 3 to 4 annually received mixed reactions. Supporters viewed it as a timely response to the institution's underperformance, arguing that more frequent meetings would enable quicker review of key performance indicators, accelerate decision-making, and enhance management oversight. Conversely, concerns were raised about the financial implications of additional meetings, particularly for a parastatal expected to reduce operational costs. Critics emphasized that effective oversight depends more on the quality and deliberations than the frequency of meetings. Selection of the chairperson and vice chairperson. Members of the public expressed concern over the absence of a clear provision in the bill regarding the appointment of the chairperson of the body. They noted that while Section 6 of the Principal Act previously empowered the minister to appoint the chairperson, this clause has been repealed. Furthermore, Section 10 of the Principal Act still provides for the appointment of a vice chairperson by the minister, yet the bill remains silent on both roles. To address this legislative gap, the public proposed two possible solutions. Option 1, repeal Section 10 of the Principal Act to align with the bill's silence on board leadership appointments. And Option 2, amend Clause 4 of the bill to reintroduce a provision empowering the minister to appoint the chairperson. In addition, stakeholders emphasized the need to establish clear and transparent criteria for selecting both the chairperson and vice chairperson to promote merit-based appointments and enhance governance. Additional clauses proposed by the public. Participants strongly advocated for the inclusion of provisions that address the needs of persons with disabilities. They recommended that the interpretation of Section of the bill should explicitly define person with a disability to ensure clarity and legal recognition. Furthermore, the public called on the government to legislate examination accommodations for people with disabilities to prevent systemic disadvantage. Proposed measures included 1, extended time allocations, 2, use of assistive technologies, 3, alternative formats, e.g. Braille, large print, and fourthly, flexible testing environments such as distraction-free rooms and accessible stations. Concerns were raised over the absence of mechanisms for public reporting in cases of examination malpractice. Members of the public proposed the inclusion of a dedicated clause in the bill to protect whistleblowers from retaliation. Additionally, there was a strong recommendation to establish an independent examination ombudsperson to receive complaints, manage appeals, and ensure impartial resolution of disputes. The public emphasized the urgent need for Zimsec to embrace digital transformation. It was proposed that the bill mandate investment in ICT infrastructure to improve operational efficiency and service delivery. Stakeholders also recommended the integration of digital assessment tools and platforms to support e-assessments in line with the global best practices. The public hearings revealed widespread concern over delayed payments to invigilators and examination markers. It was proposed that the bill include a provision requiring Zimsec to ensure timely and transparent remuneration for all personnel involved in examination administration. Observations. The committee observed that several participants were unable to clearly distinguish between the provisions of the Education Act and those of the Zimsec Act. As a result, many submissions focused on matters related to school operations and learner welfare, which are already addressed under the Education Act. This conflation of legislative frameworks led to confusion and diverted attention from the core objectives of the Zimsec Amendment Bill. Secondly, the committee noted that the Zimsec Amendment Bill is necessary and overdue. The Principal Act of 1994 is misaligned with the current requirements of assessment credibility, governance accountability, and international comparability. The bill contains important reforms, but needs precise drafting to remove legal ambiguities, close potential loopholes, and establish clear mechanisms for implementation, oversight, and redress. There was a strong public desire for stricter penalties, particularly for internal actors such as Zimsec personnel, to create a genuine deterrent against examination malpractice. Fourthly, granting Zimsec expanded powers such as the authority to deregister examination centers without instituting corresponding checks and balances, including a formal appeal mechanism, poses significant risks to procedural fairness and undermines the principles of natural justice. 5. The proposed professionalization of the body is commendable. However, its composition should be carefully balanced to incorporate practical expertise from the basic education sector, such as seasoned school heads, district education officers, curriculum specialists, and infrastructure planning experts to ensure informed and contextually relevant decision making. 6. Critical issues of inclusivity for people with disabilities, transparency in terms of whistleblowing, and operational efficiency, digitalization, timely payments, are fundamental to the reform process and are not adequately addressed in the current draft. 7. All structural reforms, including the proposed CEO title change and adjustment to the board committee composition, must be guided by financial prudence to ensure cost effectiveness and institutional sustainability. 8. The current drafting of the bill raises concerns about potential legal disputes, inconsistent administrative decisions, and unintended harm to innocent students as flagged in stakeholder submissions. These risks warrant careful reconsideration to ensure the bill promotes fairness, clarity, and accountability. The last part of the report is on recommendations before the conclusion. Recommendation number 1. On clause 2, there is need to retain the change to CEO, but ensure it is applied consistently throughout the Principal Act. The financial implications of this change must be carefully managed to avoid an undue burden on Zimsec. The second recommendation, there is need to amend clause 3 to introduce a tiered system of penalties for examination malpractice, which will allow for graduated punishments befitting the severity of the offense. 3. Mandatorily incorporate an independent appeals process within the clause 4. A sender slated for deregistration must have the right to appeal before the decision is executed. 4. There is need to amend clause 5 to include and guarantee representation on the board for principals of teachers' colleges, NASH, NAF, and the private school sector. 5. On clause 6, there is need to specify the size of the finance committee, that is, a size of 3 to 5 members, and stipulate that members shall be drawn from the main pot. 6. On clause 7, there is need to strengthen the penalties by introducing a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years imprisonment for any Zimsec employee convicted of involvement in the leakage of examination materials. 7. The bill should include new clauses addressing A. Disability inclusion by mandating reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities. B. Whistleblower protection to guarantee confidentiality and protection for reporters. C. Digital transformation by mandating ICT modernization within a defined time frame. 8. Eighth recommendation, there is need to amend the bill to include a clear provision on the appointment process and the criteria for both the chairperson and the vice chairperson of the board. 9, there is a need for the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education to issue a directive to Zimsec to ensure the timely payment of all personnel hired to administer examinations. 10th, there is a need to correct the duplicate item E in section 6, subsection 1 of the bill. Conclusion, Honorable Speaker. The Zimbabwe School Examinations Council Amendment Bill is timely and marks a significant move towards reporting and enhancing Zimbabwe's national examination system. Amending the Zimsec Act of 1994 is essential to ensure the organization remains effective, relevant, and responsive to Zimbabwe's changing educational environment. The committee urges Parliament to adopt the recommendations outlined in this report to ensure the bill is robust, equitable, and capable of restoring public trust in Zimsec. This marks the end of the report. Honorable Speaker, say thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there any further debate?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Sir.
Yes, is that Honorable Mshoyo?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for granting me the opportunity to give some few words in respect to the Zimsec bill. Let me acknowledge the Honorable Minister for bringing this bill, and also the Portfolio Committee on Education is led by the Acting Chair, Honorable Mukomberi, for a superb committee report. Mr. Speaker, say my comment on this bill is that yes, we need this bill so that in terms of the issues that have actually happened from 1994 up to now, there have been some changes. And I understand the need to ensure that this bill aligns itself with the Public Entities Corporate Governance Act. The only challenge that I then have, Mr. Speaker, sir, is that in the process of trying to align the Zimsec to the Public Entities Corporate Governance Act, I think there was an omission in the drafting. And I believe that the Honorable Minister will need to look at it. And the Portfolio Committee has also raised the issue. First and foremost, the Public Entities Corporate Governance Act requires, and we expected to see it within the bill, first, that the minister, in terms of appointing the board, needs to abide by the provision of Section 17 and Section 18 of the Constitution. These are standard, and we've seen it in other statutes that have passed through this Parliament. The second issue, which has also been highlighted by the committee, is that this bill seeks to come up with the appointment of the board members, but for some reason, it omitted the process, the appointment of the chair and the deputy chair. Because if we were to pass this bill as it is, it means that there is no mention of the chair, there is no mention of the deputy chair, and it appears as if we wanted the board to just be appointed as board members, and then they will leave it to them to do that, which I don't think would be proper, given the fact that ordinarily you wanted the minister in consultation with the president to then appoint the chairperson, the deputy chairperson, and normally the current procedure in our other statutes is that where the gender aspect also comes into play. When you appoint the chairperson as a male, you appoint the deputy as a female, or vice versa. And that missing in this bill creates a problem. Then the other issue, which I think requires the minister to consider, if you look into the bill, yes, we have reduced the size of the board, which is commendable to around 15. But there's something that I think is missing. The minister, Honorable Minister, he said that he wants 3 people to come from public universities, 3 to come from private universities. I wanted to take a position in support of what the portfolio committee said. It is better for us to ensure that we have got 2 from public universities, 2 from private universities. But we also insist that the teacher training colleges, the primary teacher training colleges, should also have at least a representative on the board. The secondary teacher training colleges should also have a representative on the board. I am aware that the Education Act provides for the advisory committee, but I want to say to the Honorable Minister, Mr. Speaker, that Zimsec board should have, if we are having university representatives, let's also have teachers' college representatives. One of the things that we have seen in Zimbabwe is that check all our teachers' colleges. The qualifications of our principals in various teacher training colleges is of superior standard. It's not like the universities has got more learned people compared to our teachers colleges. Currently, most of them are actually doctors, professors, and I think they can actually do sufficient justice to sit on the Zimsec board. But not only that, they will also help, because Zimsec board Zimsec examinations are written by those students, grade 7, your Form 4s, your Form 6. And these are the colleges that train teachers to go and teach those students. Then there is an issue, Mr. Speaker, which I think the Honorable Minister also needs to look into. The committee had actually put it. The question of giving Zimsec board the power to deregister a school is good. But that power, Mr. Speaker, cannot be given without an appeal process. Borrowing from the Education Act, you see in other areas under the jurisdiction of the Honorable Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, they actually then come up with the appeal process, which says where a person or an institution is aggrieved by the decision of the board, the appeal should actually go to the minister. The minister will either vary or confirm the decision of the board. And when a person is aggrieved by the decision of the minister, then he or she can be allowed to appeal either to the administrative court or to the high court. But in the current setup, Honorable Speaker said, this was actually omitted, and this omission will create a problem, and we want the Honorable Minister to ensure that this is actually taken into consideration. Then there is the aspect of the various punishments. I think it is clear and important to make sure that those people that are caught on the wrong side of the law should actually be punished for bringing the public examination in Zimbabwe into disrepute. But we also need to balance, in this case, the issue of the children, the school children. We are aware, Mr. Speaker, as we debate this bill, that we have got students that wrote a paper around 2022, and there was some issues of some fraud, and those results were then withheld. And up to now, those results continue to be withheld. Now, we need a mechanism within this bill to ensure that the interest of the student is also looked into. You cannot punish students because of the issues that has actually happened outside their control. Because I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, that there is no student in any primary or secondary school that can actually go and get a paper. A paper from Zimsec can only be leaked by Zimsec personnel or within the chain from the Zimsec to the various school examination centers. So to that extent, Mr. Speaker, it will be prudent, in my view, to ensure that we have got a mechanism with this bill to ensure that we do that. Mr. Speaker, I want to believe that this bill is a good move, but it needs those corrections, Mr. Speaker, that your committee has actually mentioned And some of these that I've actually supported to ensure that we can come up with a good bill. We don't want to pass this bill and then come back a year or so later to come up with another amendment. I think let's make sure when we go to the next levels to ensure that all the provisions, the amendments to this are actually fitted in so that we can actually come up with a bill that can save this country. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir.
Thank you very much. Any further debate?
Yes, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Wende.
Ndotenda Honorable Speaker nemukana uno handichada kudzokorora zvambotaurwa but ndoda kutsigira committee Honorable Mutoriwa paboard, because paboard mukaona minister vari kuproposa kuti ngapave nema-experts velaw vemuindustry vachingodaro, but vasiyawo vanhu vane unyanzvi nenyaya dzemaprimary nemasecondary school. So my point ndeyekuti tinoda kukurudzira minister kuti vaconsider ipapo so that vasiye nzvimbo kune vanonzwisisa nezveprimary school nesecondary school. Zvokudai mamusiri speaker, honorable speaker said, ndokwandai kukumbirai kuti muiswe ikoko because zveeducation munonyatsozvinzwisisa chaizvo. Zvakafanana nekuti munoisa bhodhi rinoona nezvechipatara mosiya vana chiremba vacho. So ndo patiri kukumbira ipapo kuna minister. Even mukaona muSADC munana South Africa kunana Botswana, mabhodhi avo anosanganisira vanhu vane ruzivo rwemuchikoro zveprimary nesecondary. Then chechipiri, honorable speaker say, nyaya yegender parity neregional representation. Ndofunga pese panouya bhiri nyowani, ma-MP anosumuka achi-emphasize nyaya nekuti ndo zviri mubumbiro remutemo wedu kuti pese patinoita ma-appointment ngatitarisei nyaya dzegender so that dzigare dzataurwa mubill, tisasiyire kumaminista kana vavega, because tiri kuona pakuappointa kuri kuitwa vanhu madzimai anozenge angove maviri 10 vava varume. Saka sebill riri kubuda munomu tinofanira kugara tangoteedza zviri muconstitution, because constitution yedu inoti 50-50. Togara taziva kuti kana bhodhi richiitwa rine vanhu 10, 5 madzimai, handitika tichiona zvakare kuti after taita madzimai nyatsoomberai madzimai acho tichibvapo zvakare toda kuti bill redu iri rione kuti matunhu ari kumiririrwa here zvakakwana panenge pachiappointwa, kuti kana vanobvawo kudivi reuku pavari kuappointa minista vachionawo kuti kumashi west kwedu uku hatisi kungosiyiwa here chinzi takadya kare, but vanhu vachinyatsoongorora kuti matunhu ese vanhu vese varichi vakamiririrwa, ndo zvinotaurawo futi bumbiro redu remutemo. Toda kuenda ndofunga minister vazviona because vakatarisa mubill, I think pane mistake yakaitwa panyaya yeposition yachairperson because it was removed tobva pasara pana vice chairperson. So panoda kugadzirwa ipapo because panozocreata situation yekuti meeting acho anozotyewa sei nechiba, but I suspect that at this stage maybe it's just a technical error which we can then correct when we are in committee stage. Then chekupedzisira, honorable speaker say, dai taona kuti pabhiri ipapa tibve kutsika yekare
yekuti simba rese riri kutsvetwa mumaoko aminister kuti ndiye wega anoapoinda mabhodhi. Tikatarisa zvakutaura constitution nebasa ramuri kuita kuSROC muchiapoinda makomisheni kuya, process yenyu iri very transparent. Kana isu taitombofungawo kuti vanhu vanopikisa havapoindwe, but
Honorable member, taurai shona chakadzama ukusanganisa nechirungu.
Ndakambogara kumusha ndakazofunda mutaundi saka zvinoita zvisangana.
Aiwa.
All right, Honorable Speaker, sir.
Yeah.
In fact, my last point.
Zvekare.
Oh, all right, kandidzokere kushona. Chekupedzisira ndechekuti dai zvaibvira kuti tagadzirisa kuti simba rekushara vanopinda mumabhodhi risange riri kuna minista chete, pange painewo urongwa hwekuti vamwe vanomirirawo mamwe mapazi vachipiwawo mukana hwekuti vange vachipinda, so that tibharansise ipapo. Naida kupa muenzaniso sezvamuri kuita kubato redu reparamendi riya, kuti pamunoshara vanomiririra mumakomisheni edu ari muconstitution, vanhu vazhinji vari kufara chaizvo, nekuti danho ramunotora rinenge rakajeka, munhu wese achizviona, vanhu vachibvunzwa ari kuzvipiringisha achizvipiringishawo and so forth. And vanhu vese kumapato ese vari kuuya, izvezvi kwawandira vanhu vanotobvawo kuno kuopposition vari kuuya tichivaona, because ndo kune vanhu vakati fundei vakawanda, saka vari kuuya muchivaketa tichivaona, saka ndo zvatinokurudzirawo kuti dai ita sekudaro. Ndatenda sachigaro. Thank you.
Ndio wakadziza so far. Bedwe. Any further debate?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Besides, what is happening to my honorable members on my right? What's happening? I don't want to be seen to be favoring honorable members on my left. What's happening?
The committee that is bringing the issues first, then everyone will come on board. So we thought these were committee members.
No. I must be seen.
So from now you see everyone coming. We are disciplined. We don't just shout.
No, this is a very important bill. I think it's only fair that members on my right also contribute. When I'm putting on my other hat, I feel disappointed. Honorable Madziwanyika, please take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, I would like to respect the honorable members who debated ahead of me, because they actually hammered in the bulk of the items that are very important. However, I just want to put some emphasis on other issues, to put some flesh so that we try to make sure that we give a lot of emphasis, which is so important for the honorable minister. What is very fundamental and is coming out from the outreach by honorable members, the Speaker says, is that the issue to do with the power to deregister exam centers. It is a noble idea in the work of exam leakages and the rampant malpractices with regards to examinations in our country. However, Mr. Speaker says, whenever a deregistration is done, we must underscore that there is that innocent man, that innocent student, not all will be able to see the exam, Honorable Speaker say. So to deregister, it means you are taking over the rights of those who are innocent in that process. So to avoid that, Mr. Speaker say, I thought this bill must make sure that it ensures that the process of deregistration or the reasons for deregistration must be clear and expressed in this act, not in the regulations. Because the regulations, Honorable Speaker, say are done by the Honorable Minister alone. Parliament is excused from those regulations. So what I want to emphasize, the Speaker says, is that let those reasons be explicitly and expressly stated in this amendment, so that every Jack and Jill will know that if he does such and such a thing, he is offended, and the center can be deregistered. Right, Mr. Speaker, say I cannot. I don't want to repeat or regurgitate the issue of the desire for the appeal process to ensure that there is administrative justice. That one has been hammered home by other honorable members. Mr. Speaker, the idea of reducing the board from a number of 30 to around half the number, to me, it's welcome, because I think it will improve the efficiency within which decisions are made. It's so difficult, the Honorable Speaker say, to have a bloated board of 30. That was too much. It actually takes a toll on business. In short, they say Namaris. So I'd like to applaud that amendment. However, like all other honorable members have said, it is also important to ensure that in that bill, people who have got experience in primary and secondary education must be involved. The amendment is silent on that issue, Mr. Speaker say, at the moment. And also, on that issue of the board, there is no a transition clause. What happens if 8 members or 10 members decided to resign from the board? What will happen? What will be the transition like? So I think it was also important to include that one. Mr. Speaker said, there is clause number 8. And I wish to read this clause, Mr. Speaker, because to me, it sounded so ambiguous, and it may end up punishing those who are not, people who are not intended to be punished by the Act. Clause 8, Mr. Speaker, of the amendment says, it speaks to the insertion of the following paragraphs. And I wish to read the insertion of paragraph G. Paragraph G says, anyone who makes representation that he or she is in possession, or that someone is in possession of an examination material, shall be guilty of an offense and liable to a fine not exceeding level 7, or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 2 years, or both fine and imprisonment. Look at this, the construction of this statement or this clause, Mr. Speaker. Anyone, and he says anyone who makes a representation that someone is in possession of exam material, that on its own, Mr. Speaker, I think it's creating a lot of ambiguity. Why? Let me give an example, Mr. Speaker said. I'm a fellow teacher, assuming that I'm a fellow teacher at ABC primary school. And my fellow teacher comes over to me and say, did the headmaster receive examination materials? As long as that teacher says yes, he has made a representation to the fact that the school is in possession of exam material, and that person becomes liable to an offense. I don't think this is the intention of the legislator. Yes, I know what exactly what we wanted to do, but I think we need to change the construction of that clause 8G so that it speaks right to the crux of the matter, right to the issue that we want to address, so that it doesn't affect others who are not supposed to be affected. So that's the point. Mr. Speaker says, if you look at this bill generally this bill, Mr. Speaker says, seeks to punish those who cheat in other exams. It also seeks to punish those involved in leaking examinations of logs, logging in and out whenever you are entering into a print media and so forth. These are some of the examples that have been put forward. If they are incorporated into this bill will be watertight in all aspects. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Any further debate?
Yes, Mr.
Yes,
Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Togarepi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ininda sumuka kuti ndi support kana kuti ndikurudzire bill redu iri. Ini ndinoona sokuti chunhu chakanonoka kuuya tichiona madambudziko atakaona aiitika mukunyorwa kwebvunzo, mukubatwa kwebvunzo muzvikoro nevaibata pamusoro pazvo. Chokutanga ndaona minista vachitaura nyaya yekuti munhu uyu unenge achitungamirira Zimsec unenge achinzi chief executive officer. Indaona sokuti iri zita risinganyanyo kupindirana nepublic service. Ini ndaifunga kuti munhu uyu unofanira kungonziwo director samazita, kana kuti unonzi chief director, kana kuti unopuwa rimwe zita rinenge rinotaurirana nemazita atinopa kuvanhu vari mupublic service. Ndo mafungiro andaita. Chimwewo chandaona ndechekuti pane vanhu vanonyora bvunzo vakasiyana siyana, zvikuru vanenge vane urema kana vachirarama neurema, vanongopuwa nguva yakafanana nevanenge vane mitezo yavo inenge yakakwana kana kuti ichishanda sezvinotarisirwa. Indaifunga kuti mubhiu redu iri rinofanira kunyatsobudisa pachena kuti pakunyorwa kwebvunzo tichapa mukana zvakadini kune vavo vanenge vaine madambudziko asi vachinge vari vadzidzi vanoda kunyora bvunzo pamwe chete. Ndafarirawo panyaya yekuti financial yeZimsec yanga iri yaiperawo pakati pegore isingafambirani namamwe mafinancial statements emupublic service. Ndaona kuti apa paitwa chinhu chakanaka kuti iperewo pamwe chete nemamwe mafinancials emabadzi ehurumende ose anopera musi wa31 December. Zvinobetsera izvozvo kuti panotariswa kushanda kweZimsec itariswe pamwe chete navamwe, tichiona kuti iyo inenge yashanda zvakadini zvinoita kuti dzidzo yedu inge yakaita zvakanaka. Mubati wechigaro ndinoda kuti titaurezve pamusoro pokuti muchitarisa nyaya yokuti chikoro chinenge chawanikwa paita kubiridzira chobva chanzi chobvarwa chese, isu tisingatarisi kuti kulika kana kuti kufamba kuinda kwama question papers kuya hakungobvi kuzvikoro kuti ndo vanongobiridzira, zvimwe zvinenge zvatobva kuzeki. Saka kana chida kuvhara Zimsec, kana chida kuvhara chikoro taifana kuvharawo nezimsec yacho, nokuti chinoita kuti paite kubuda kwezvinhu pazvisingafaniri kubuda kunoreva kuti system yose yokubatwa kwama-examinations iwayo kubva kuna headmaster kusvika tasvika kune vanotungamirira kugadzirwa kwama-questions nezvimwe zvakadaro, panenge paine huori pese ipapo. Saka tisati tabvara chikoro kana senda iya zvinozokanganisira dzidzo yavana vanenge kana kuri kupuwa iyoyo examination yokubiridzira, mwana unotongopuwawo, haana simba rokunoitsvaka kwainowanikwa. Saka chikoro ndechavana, hachizi chaheadmaster, hachizi ndechavana. Saka chikoro nesenda inofanira kuramba iripo, totsvaka pane dambudziko. So mutemo uyu ngaukurudziwe kuti kana chikoro chabira tikaona kuti zviri pana headmaster, headmaster vangadzingwa havo basi, vangabviswa pachikoro ipapo kana vanofungidzwa ndo vakazviita, asi vana varambe vachinyora bvunzo vari pachikoro chavo. Imwe nyaya ndeyekuti muZimsec mutemo munofanira kubuda pachena. Tine ma-private colleges abuda akawanda, nzira yokuvaita masenders nokuti vanhu vasina kanikati urongwa hunokontrolewa nehurumende. Saka tinogona kunge matambudziko atinozoona kuma-public schools achinge abva ikoko nokuti hurumende invigilation kana zvimwe zvakadaro inenge isina control yazvo. Uye vanhu ava vamwe vacho vanozviita for business. Kuti chikoro changu chikanzi chapasa kwazvo zvinoreva kuti ndinowana vana vechikoro vakawanda vanouya pachikoro changu. Saka vane zvinovaedza kana kuti zvinovaita attempt kuti vange vachilikisa ma-examinations. Saka zvaida kuti nzira yekunyorwa mabvunzo yaifanira kubuda mubill medu, ma-amendment medu, kuti kana iri private school tichaibatsira sei kuti isavawo iyo nzvimbo yatichawana nzira dzokubiridzira idzi dzichibvana ikoko, nokuti ava vane zvinhu zvakawanda kudarika ma-public schools. Zvinovakurudzira kuti vashuve kuti dai vana vavo vapasa kuti vana vauye vakawanda vagoita mari. Asi ku-private school, ku-public school, vavari yavo ndokuzadzisa chido chehurumende chokuti dai tadzidzisa vana venyika yese. Saka ndinofunga kuti mumutemo umu ipapo panofanira kuti kana takunyatsoinda pa close by close tinyatsoona kuti inzira ipi yaiswa mumutemo patinoisa amendment icharatidza kuti tazvidzivirira kuti kusaita leakage kuma private schools ikoko. Iyo Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education taifunga kuti mumutemo iwoyo patinoti tinoda kuisa masefa tinoda kuita sei. Masefa aya aifanira kuva standard nyika yose kuti anenge akadai, nokuti vamwe navamwe vanongovaka nenzira yavo, kunyange kuchinzi kunoenda vanonotarisa kuti akavakwa zvakanaka here, asi tadii kungowana standard safe yokuti yoiswa protocol yokuti kana ichivhurwa inovhurwa sei, kana mapapers auya anopinzwamo sei. Zvakafanana kuti kana unozowanikwa aine mhosva mowana nzira yokumutonga nayo. Kana mumwe nomumwe pachikoro pavo vachiita nenzira yavo zvinonetsa kudzivirira kuti tisawana nyaya dzekubiridzira kwebvunzo. Saka ndiyo imwe pfungwa, Madam Speaker, yandati ndiisewo. Izvi nyaya yokubirirwa kwebvunzo nokushanda kwezeki handifungi kuti zvinonyanya kuda chikoro chakawanda, hazvidi chikoro chakanyanya kuwanda. Zvinotongoda kuona kuti taisa mitemo inoita kuti zvinhu zvifambe zvakanaka. Zvechikoro tozozviona kana taenda kwaTsambe.
Further debate?
Yes. Notenda, Honorable Togarepi. Any further debate?
Further debate here, Madam.
Honorable Jerry.
Further debate?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, ma'am. Good afternoon. I want to add my contribution to the bill which has been brought by the Honorable Minister for second reading. In particular, I'm looking at Section 6, which the Minister spoke about the composition of a board. Madam Speaker, ma'am, I was looking at this board, and in line with the Corporate Governance Act on how boards should be constituted. Sorry, I want just a moment. How a board should be constituted. I think the Honorable Minister did a very good job. One, his board has got 15 members, which is an odd number, which is needed. And the reason for doing that is for voting purposes. When you are voting, we need to have an odd number in the board, which is commendable. Then two, if you look at an area where most of the members are saying the board should have members from the education sector, the composition which is being proposed by the Honorable Minister is actually speaking to where the country is going. Education 5.0, which is industrialization. That's why in his body, he's putting members from the Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce. They need to be there. These are the industrialists who then will be helping now the academias to issues to do with where are we going and what should be done for us to industrialize. It is also going to help a lot our universities in terms of raising money. Remember, we are also pushing issues of we need to have a convergence between education and industry, whereby research is being done by developed countries like America. They are being done by universities. So the industrialists should actually be part of the board and also encourage companies when they are making their researches in their organizations to make sure that researches are done by universities. This is a very good. This is a very good composition. If I may read it, the Honourable Minister is proposing that more than 3 representatives from the state universities is speaking to academics. That is the first, which are 3 representatives. Then the Honourable Minister went on to propose that 3 representatives from private universities. It's an all-inclusive and all-encompassing proposal by the Honourable Minister, which is quite brilliant. 1 person appointed by the Minister from the Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce. We are not speaking to industry. You cannot have a body according to corporate governance with people with same skills. That's why you find in every organization, you need to have your lawyers, you need to have auditors, you need to have other skills which are different so that you neutralize the body. You cannot have people with the same line of thinking to make up a body. So this is quite brilliant, Honourable Minister, your proposal. The Minister is also proposing to have a consultation, a member from the Law Society of Zimbabwe. Right? It's actually speaking to the vision of the President, industrialization, education 5.0. Right? The Minister is also proposing that 2 names submitted to the Minister by the Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries. This is speaking to industrialization, education 5.0, where the country is now focusing on, where the country is going. We cannot keep our country being an academic, where we all have got academias sitting in a body thinking in the same line. Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. This is quite commendable. Then we have our Chief Executive Officer, and the other 5 members is an auditor, human resources, finance, information technology, and risk management. This is the best proposal that we recommend to have from a lot of other institutions if you want to push our country forward in line with the vision which this country is focusing on. I so submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Jere. Further debate, Honourable Molokele.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I would like to add my voice on this bill. As someone who's got a heart for education.
Sorry, Honourable Molokele. May I remind all the honourable members that the Committee of the Whole House will look at the bill clause by clause when the Committee of the Whole House is constituted. And it is very important that we debate and take it into cognizance that we're going to have Committee of the Whole House and we'll look at this. Please avoid repeating what has already been debated by your fellow members of Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I'll be guided accordingly. There are some points that I hope will not be repetition. But I think for me, the most important issue is around the very foundation of us as a nation in terms of who we are, because education is the pillar of our identity as a country. Bearing in mind that our entire history is mostly dominated by our colonial influence. As a country, we are a former British colony. I'm an example. I did my O-levels and A-levels in the 90s. And it was 15 years after independence and my examinations were administered by Cambridge University, showing how far distant Zimbabwe went through from 1980 until they got to the stage where the country could exercise its sovereignty and conduct its own examinations without the need for colonial support. For me, that is the most important issue. That is at the heart, because I know very well that when Zimsec was introduced, a lot of Zimbabweans were very uncomfortable with the idea of moving away from Cambridge to go to Zimsec. And one of the major concerns around Zimsec was that people did not trust the country to have the capacity to have a neutral examination body. And as a Pan-African, I was very strongly opposed to the idea of us maintaining Cambridge University as our examiner. I'm still opposed to us maintaining any other foreign institution to examine our students as a country. This is about national identity. This is about national integrity. So to the extent that there was concern that Zimsec could not have the capacity, I'm very disappointed to say that today, as we are speaking, most of the prophets who had prophesied doom around Zimsec have unfortunately been proved so right. This is an indictment on us as a nation. It's a failure of us as a nation. But we must not lose that. It's part of growing up. It's part of an experience. It's better to have our own examination system than to go back to the foreign ones. So what we need to focus on is improving our ability to conduct independent and neutral exams. That's why this bill is very important to me. While I'm speaking, I know that the privileged Zimbabweans among us, including some who are politicians here, they do not recognize Zimsec by behavior and conduct. They may spend time attacking the British as the colonialists, but when we look at their children and their grandchildren, all of them are educated by the Cambridge University. They are hypocrites, and we must call them out. Some are in this August House, and they belong to the same liberation movement that was supposed to end colonial influence in this country. Shame upon you. You must stop using Cambridge University. Show leadership. You must stop using Cambridge University. Show leadership through your families, through your children, through your grandchildren. They must start using Zimsec so that you show that you are proud of your own institution.
Order, Honorable Molokele.
The honorable member is targeting the liberation movement. Shame on us. Is he attacking us? We have the capacity to attack back because we are actually dealing with a representative of the sellouts, and we are not comfortable when he points a finger on us. Let's debate. Is this bill
Honorable Chair, it's not me to interrupt you.
not for him to say shame on the liberation movement when he is free to say what he wants because we freed this country.
No. Madam Speaker,
he has no responsibility to say that.
We cannot allow.
Honorable Amauswa, you cannot order. Honorable Amauswa,
how do you allow government?
Can we have order in the house?
To request to attack
order,
others.
Honorable Amauswa, please can you take your seat? You are correct, Government Chief Whip, and may I request Honorable Molokele to reverse his statement. It is unwarranting.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, what am I supposed to reverse? That people are still using Cambridge and they are here in Parliament. Is that not true? There is evidence that they are doing that. What am I supposed to reverse exactly?
You are supposed to reverse the point that you made that we have liberation cadres in this house who are taking their children to the Cambridge. You need to reverse that. It's unwarranted.
But it's true.
Unacceptable.
It's a fact of life.
Unacceptable, Honorable.
Is it proven beyond reasonable doubt? It's not a lie. We can look for the children and produce evidence here.
Are you going to reverse or not?
Madam Speaker, I will reverse, but I will look for evidence.
Your statement, Honorable.
I reversed the statement, but I also promised
the statement that
I reversed the statement that in this house there are people who have got children
you are
and
actually
grandchildren
in order,
who are still using Cambridge.
Honorable Molokele, you're not reversing. You're not apologetic of what you've said.
Because it's a fact.
No, Honorable.
So can you tell me how to reverse it so that I know? Because I know it's a truth. And I can prove it beyond reasonable doubt.
If you don't want
that
to
in this
reverse,
house. Can you show me how I should reverse it? I will follow your leadership. Madam Speaker, tell me how I should do it.
Just reverse your statement.
I reverse it respectfully. Is that what you want?
You can proceed.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm not a sellout, and I don't, if someone calls me a sellout, I'm not a sellout. But I know that the people in this house who are still using Cambridge, and I've got a way to prove it through their children and grandchildren, that they are not attending schools that are offering Zimsec. And I say this is a national indictment. This is the reason why Zimsec is not performing to its expected standards. Because the same people who are supposed to be leaders of this country are not showing patriotism, are not showing that they care about the people of Zimbabwe by teaching their own children and grandchildren schools that still give Zimsec and not Cambridge. So as long as us as leaders of this country, we are not leading from the front, we will leave Zimsec to be exposed to the problems that is facing. So I challenge you to stop complaining about Zimsec as long as your children and grandchildren are still using Cambridge. And we know you and we can expose you.
Honorable Speaker.
What point of order, Honorable Molokele? What is your point of order?
I think the honorable member must debate the bill. What is it that he wants in the bill and what is it that is against? Not attacking people, not attacking other honorable members. I don't see any value addition to the bill for anything that he has said. Thank you.
Honorable Molokele, you're guided by what Honorable Liwayo has said. Please debate the bill itself.
Thank you. I'm debating on the importance of Zimsec. That is a national pride. It's an institution that all of us as Zimbabweans, all of us as leaders, we should lead from the front by taking our children and grandchildren to a Zimsec administered examination school. And that is part of this debate. You cannot stop me from saying that. I'm calling out all the leaders in this assembly. Could you stop attacking Zimsec? Because you are supposed to be the one protecting Zimsec. It's your duty. It's a national duty. And it's part of patriotism that our children should have a proper examination council. Not only that, I wanted to say that as long as you know that your child has not been affected by these examination leakers, you will not feel the pain. But there are thousands of families today that have paid school fees. Their children have studied, only to be told that the paper that they are supposed to write has been leaked. You are destroying the children's future. We are destroying the children's future. So if we are going to fix Zimsec, we have to fix it bearing in mind that there is so much damage, financially, emotionally, psychosocially, that comes out when a paper is leaked. And it's something that should not happen. And it's something that as the country and as the parliament, we must take seriously. So that from now onwards, after this bill is passed, we have a very credible examination system that does not lead to that. The other thing that I wanted to debate about is about disability. I'm a disability champion. I want to propose that in the board, there be a conditional inclusion of a person with disability. We are saying that we are not leaving anyone behind, but in practice, we know for sure that we are leaving people with disabilities behind. And I request that in the board, there be someone specifically included with disability to promote the rights of people with disabilities and to recognize them in this country. The other thing that I want to include in the board is that in line with the principles that the Constitution of Zimbabwe teaches us about gender equality, as a country we seek to promote gender equality. If the chairperson is a woman, then the vice chairperson should be a man. If the chairperson is a man, then the vice chairperson should be a woman. It should actually be put in the board as a condition to say that as part of promotion of gender equality, let us make sure that the roles are reversed. And also, someone has already mentioned it, but I'm emphasizing it, that 50% clause must apply across all the new bills that are coming to Parliament, if it's a public institution, in each and every one of the bills that are coming to Parliament, Parliament must make sure that each of the public bodies or boards or commissions, 50% must be minimally women. It can be more women, but minimally, it must be clearly written that at least 50% must be women, in line with the text of our constitution, that we need to promote gender equality. This is not supposed to be optional. This is supposed to be conditional. A bill should not be passed if it does not pass the gender equality test, because as a country, we seek to achieve gender equality. Last but not least, I want to say something about the importance of learning from others. We are not the only country that was a colony of Britain. We are not the only country that used to be a colony. What can we learn from other countries? Our neighboring countries in SADC. Is Zambia having a similar problem? Is Botswana having a similar problem? Is South Africa having a similar problem? If so, what can we learn from them? If not, what can we learn from them? Before we pass this bill, Honorable Minister, I would recommend a benchmark visit, not just from your ministry, but also from the committee, from the Portfolio Committee of Primary and Secondary Education, that they do a visit to the neighboring countries in SADC and see how their examinations bodies are set up and what they've done to address any form of leakages, so that in Zimbabwe we learn from our neighboring countries to make sure that our examination body is as respectable and as respected as we used to respect Cambridge. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Further debate.
Further debate.
Further debate.
Honorable Mapike.
Maita basa mbado wechigaro nangosumukawo kuti ndingotsigira bhiri yawo yayi. Ndaida kutarisa panyaya yekutsvagwa kwevanhu weboard kuti panofanawo kunge pane youth kana kuti wechidiki anofanira kunge aripo kuitira kuti tizoitawo kuti wasimbe waripo nekuti vanenge vachiri vechidiki ende vanofanira kupuwawo kota yavo. Panyaya yeboard panofanira kunge pane mutemo uri pachena. Mbato wechigaro pane vanhu vanotorwa kupinda mubhodhi anogara pamabhodhi 6. Unzwa ndiri kubhodhi rakati, ndiri kubhodhi rekueducation, ndine rimwe rekumaovheti, ndine rimwe, ari munhu mumwe chete anenge achigara pamabhodhi ipapo. Saka panofanira kunge pabudiswa pachena kuti munhu anenge akutosita kune rimwe bhodhi ngaachirega kuuya futi asite pabhodhi iroro, nokuti ndozi kuzotikanganisa izvozvo kuti munhu wane anenge ane 10 paanenge achisita oita kunge vanhu vapera. Saka panofanira kunge pari pachena kuti kana mumwe chete ngaabva asita pabhodhi rimwe chete. Vanhu vakawanda vanoruvha panguva yemusangano yemabhodhi anenge achiti ndiri kubhodhi yakati ndambodaidzwa, ndiri shefu kwakati ndazodai. Saka ndaifunga kuti ipapo panyanye kutarisiswa nyaya yederegistration. Minister munofanira kuitarisisa nokuti vanhu vanouya ari headmaster kana kuti ani kuzvikoro zvedu zvekumaruzevha zvakavakwa nevabereki, iye angouyawo wapinzwa basa ikoko ozonzi pane maexam alika kwakunzi chikoro ichocho ngachidhidhejiswe chitange futi kufamba makilomita kunonyorera maexam kumwe. Ngatiti anenge abatwa nemhosva yake kana ari headmaster ngaapuwe mutongo wake semunhu anangobatwawo neumbavha kana nerepi. Tisabva tazoti kana musha waita tsikidzi udzika wapiswe wese, ipapa panofanira kuti pange pachitarisiswa zvakanaka. Muindaneti zvinenge zvabhodharesi, zvinenge zvakuenda kwese. Saka zvokuti tizotanga kuti munhu azobata chinhu chacho kana kuti azozviona zvapaindaneti titi ngaaende kunotongeswa panhu panenge pachineswa. Saka ndaifunga kuti ipapa ngatitanzei kutarisisa nyaya yemasaisai ako mazuva ano pakupinda kare kwainzi aiva akabvarura envelope akazita sei. Pari zvino zvitorana nenyaya yeindaneti, zvinhu zvakawanda zvekupinda muindaneti, zvekupinda musocial media zvinofanira kuonekwa kuti kana zvapinda musocial media pasazoperera kwachaliko unonzi kwazvisungwe, ngazvitangire kwazvinenge zvatangira. Saka ndaifunga kuti ipapo patarisiswe panyaya yebhiri iyoyi. Nyaya imwe yandaona isinaonesa kutarisiswa inyaya yekufambiswa kwemapepa. Patinobva kure hakuna nzira, pakafanana kunana Mbire, kunana kumabhodha, kunana Chikwarakwara, nokumwe kunana Chikombedzi, kunana Marupati, hakuna marodzi okuti mapepa anogona kutakurwa. Dzimwe nguva vanhu vacho vanozonzi varikisa mapepa vanenge vakuita zvekutumira pamudhudhudhu kana kutumira pabhazi kana kuzongotiwo nebhasikoro vanhu ngavaende. Saka ndaifunga kuti ngarive riri pachena kuti panenge pane maresources here anokwanisa kunge achiiswa kuti panenge pasaita nematsaona akuitwa nevanhu vanezvikoro saka vanhu vacho vanenge vari ikoko vacho izvozvo zvatakakutarisiswa here kuzoedza kuti kana mapepa edu achinzi azobuda kana kuti awanikwa anenge akaita sei. Yokupedzisira ndofunga ndekungotsigira kuti vana vechikoro kana awanikwa anopepa ngaarege kunge anoshungurudzwa nokuti kwazvabva chaiko anenge azongogashirawo kwazvinenge zvabva. Ngaaongorwe nokwa zvabva ikoko vana vechikoro varege kupinda pamatambudziko anenge akadaro. Asi ndoda kuti ndisapote bhiri iro ringaringe kugadziriswawo zvimwe zvacho richitarisiswawo zvakawanda zvekwedu kumamisha kumachonyonyo uko. Kwokupedzisira minista mubato wechigaro mabhiri edu muno muparamendi ari kuenda kumaruzevha akanyorwa nechirungu. Vanhu vakawanda vari kuitwa inonzi rubber stamping havazonatsanzwisisa kuti zviri kufamba sei. Asi kati kutaura nenyaya yedzidzo yedu isisu zvinodii kuti kwatinoenda semakomiti kana kuti kwanoenda mapepa iyaya kunge uchinyorwawo nemutauro inonzwikwa neikoko. Nokuti pari zvino izvi vanhu vakawanda vari kuisawo effort and contribution yavo pabhill. Vazhinji vacho vanenge vabva kuno kuHarare vamwe vakati dzidzei. Asi varidzi vacho vanenge vachizobatwa nenyaya idzodzo kumaruzevha vasingazive mabhiri echirungu anadzidza apa vari kunetsekana. Asi vari kuti muparamendi mukutaura nemalanguage akawandisa. Ko isu tiri kunze mukudii kuti mutinyorerewo musati mamhanya naro bhill nemutauro yatinonzwa kana iri yekudhombodhema yotaurwawo nokudhombodhema wazive kuti apa pari kutaurwa pakati. Ndofunga aiwa ndozvana tiwo nditaure mubato wechigaro paita basa.
Further debate, madam.
Further debate.
Order. I have noticed that there's now repetition and in your contributions, and you allow me to recognize, please note that we're going to go into the committee of the whole house where we are going to go thorough on clause by clause.
But
we'll do that immediately after we get a response from the Honorable Minister. Allow me to call upon the Honorable Minister
but madam,
to respond to the debates. Honorable Chief Whip, you have a contribution?
Madam Speaker, I think you should allow members to debate. We are not rushing. It is my proposal that you allow members.
Thank you.
Debate. Yes, all the versions. Of course, members must not repeat, but let's give maybe three or two, then we close.
Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, Chief Whip. Thank you very much, Chief Whip.
Any further debate?
Further debate.
Honorable Liwayo. Please note, order, please note that we all will continue to do the 2-1 ratio. Honorable Liwayo.
Master Mubato wechigaro. Ine ndinongoda kukumbira kuti mubhiri iri zvinyatsobuda pachena kuti vana vaya vanorambidzwa kunyora nekuti havana kubhadhara fees. Mubhiri umu zvinyatsobuda pachena kuti vanoita izvozvo vacho vapanichwe zvakasimba. Then ndaikumbira zvakare kuti mubhiri irori musanganisirwewo nyaya yekuti vana vaya child headed families vana vacho kana vari kuchikoro ivavo vabvumidzwewo kunyora exam Zimsec exam iyi pasina mubhadharo vasingabhadhari exam fees. Then chimwe chandaikumbira zvakare pabhiri irori Madam Speaker ndechekuti zvikoro zvinyatsosungirirwa kutambira mari inenge yauya nemubereki achibhadhara exam fee. Kana iri zigi iyoyo zvikoro zvese whether private kana kuti ndechegovernment kana chiri kunyoresa Zimsec exam ngachitambire mari yenyika iri kubhadharwa nemubereki. Zvinyatsobuda mubhiri irori mazvita.
Mazvita, Honorable Liwayo. Further debate. Honorable Pinduka.
Maita basa mubato wechigaro. Regai ndikutendei zvekare regai ndipe pfungwa pamusoro bhiri riri mudariro. Mubato wechigaro bandiko reZimsec rinoda kuti riwedzerwe
kana kuti ripiwe kuchengetedzwa kana kuti ruchengetedzo rwakakosha panyaya kufambiswa kwemapepa. Ndinoona vanowana rutsigiro kubva kuneve zvemutemo mukati menyika, asi ndinokurudzira kuti mukati mebhiri irori ngazvibude pachena kuti vawane ruchengetedzo urwu zvakareruka kana kuti vawane pachena kuitira kuti nzvimbo dzose dzinoda kuenda mapepa awa dzichengetedzwe zvakanaka. Regai ndigoenderera mberi zvekare ndichikumbira kuti mubhiri irori zvekare mubati wechigaro kumatunhu kwatinobva titori nezvikoro zvimwe zvisati zvawana yandingati status kana kuti chinzvimbo chekuti vana vanyorere pazvikoro izvozvo. Saka mushure sekubuda kwazvaita mubhiri iri kuti pfungwa irimo yokuti mamwe masenda ngaabviswe kana achinge asvika panguva yekuti pane vakanganisa basa, ndinokurudzira zvikuru kana kuti ndinotsigira zvakanyanya kuti vawanikwa vaine mhosva ndivo ngavasangane nemutemo pane kuti tisvike patinoshaisa kodzero kuvana vari muzvikoro kuti vange vachinyorera pedyo. Tine nzvimbo kunyanya-nyanya dzekumaruwa vana vanofamba nzendo dzakareba kuenda kunonyora. Saka chikumbiro ndechekuti ngatibatei kana kuti ngatitsvakei chaita kuti musoro uteme. Uyo wawanikwa uchipara mhaka kana kuti uchisvika pakunoburitsa bepa zvisiri pamutemo ndiye ngaatarisane nemutongo. Ende ndinotsigira zvikuru mutongo wataurwa we10 years uyo, Madam Speaker, kuti aiwa ngaurambe uripo, ngausimudzirwe iwoyo nokuti zvashoresa chimiro chedzidzo yedu. Zvekare takatarisa bandiko revanonyoresa, vanomaka, zvekare nevanogadzira bvunzo idzi. Ndinoda kuti zvijeke mubhiri iri kuti ngavawanikwewo vachigoverwa miripo yavo nenguva, zvinoitirawo kuti vagofara zvekare dzidzo yedu irambe ichisimudzirwa. Chokupedzesera mubati wechigaro, mazuva ano kwava nenyaya yekushandiswa kwemishina yechizvino zvino. Zvakakosha kuti mubhiri imomo zvijeke kuti bandiko rezimsec rikwanise kunge richifambidzana zvakanyanya nenyaya yekushandiswa kwemishina yechizvino zvino, kubvira even pakuendeswa kwemapepa kumasenda kwaanonyorerwa kunyanya-nyanya nzvimbo dziri kure, pane kuti tirambe tichishandisa migwagwa. Zvakakosha kuti tishandisewo chero zvikopo-kopo zviendese nzvimbo idzodzo nenguva, zvinoridhisawo nyaya yekulika kwemapepa. Ndinotenda mubati wechigaro maita basa.
Mazvita honorable.
Further debate.
Honorable Modzeri, please proceed.
Maita mubati wechigaro, regai nditange kutenda honorable Togarepi nekuti wedzera nguva dzekudhibheta bhiri. Bhiri raunzwa naminista rakanakisa zvikuru nekuti tinoda kuumba kubva 1994 kusvika patiri kuenda zvinhu zviri kuchinja mubati wechigaro. So ndaikumbirisa kuti isusu tisi tinovaka nyika yacho. Saka bhiri redu riri kuumbwa kuti tigoti vana vedu vachauya vachidzidza, vazukuru nevazukuru vanenge rakagadzirwawo zvakanaka richienderana nezvinenge zvichiitika panguva iyoyo. Ndaitozokumbira kuti dai tarigona bhiri rabuda zvakanaka tigowanawo vanhu vanotoyeswa kunyora maexaminations muno muZimbabwe, tiwanawo foreign currency. Uyezve ndinoona panhamba yevanhu vanga vachinzi vanomira mubhodhi rabviswa ku30 kusvika ku15. Zvinobatsira kuti madecisions kana kuti urongwa hunenge huchida kuitwa huitwe nokukurumidza. Uyezve ndaikumbirisa kuti mubhiri redu iri madzimai ngavaiswe pekutanga, nekuti madzimai ndo chaivo vanovaka nyika kana vari kuti vana vavo vaite zvinhu zvakanaka. Chikumbiro nyaya yekudzidza, madzimai ndo vanonyanya kubatikana. Isana baba tendiri kumabhawa, ana mai vanotoziva kuti mwana aita homework. Chokwadi chandiri kutaura, ana mai vanotoona kuti mwana aita homework. Saka ndiri kuti madzimai akaiswa pabhiri remutemo iri rebumbiro reeducation iri zvinobatsira kuti bumbiro redu ribude zvakanaka. Ndokumbirazve kuti pane ari kunzi mastrong rooms arina kuitwa, taifunga kuti Zimsec ibude neurongwa hwechinhu chakangofanana chiri standard muchirungu choiswa muzvikoro zvese zvingava zvichachengetera mapepa edu kuti asalike. Mubati wechigaro, ndinozokumbirazve kuti patinenge takuti isusu tiri kuti hatichiumbei vanhu vachange vari mubhodhi iri, ndinofungawo semunhu anosapota he for she, mazhinji vacho ngavave madzimai. Chimwe chandinotaura mubato wechigaro ndechekuti tadii kuita zvatinongoita kujudiciary kuti vanhu vedu vachange vachitungamirira gwaro iri vaexposwe kuma-public interviews kuitira kuti titore vanhu chaivo vane unyanzvi hwakanyatsokotsverwa kuti bhiri redu ribude zvakanaka, pane kuti tikati tikazosiyirawo minista apa ndombovabatawo, tikasiyirawo minista kuti vangosarudza vanhu vanoda, handione zviine kakujeka mukati, asi ndokumbirisa kuti aiwa hativaisei kuvanhu, vanhu vosarudza kuti uyu zveshuwa ataura zvakanaka, zvaakadzidza zviri kuenderana nezvatiri kuda totarisira. Ndinofunga kuti gwaro redu rinobuda zvakanaka mubati wechigaro. Ndotenda, asi mamandidzvanyirira zvikuru, maita henyu.
Mazvita henyu Honorable Modzeri, ndazokutenderai kuti mupame. Mapama zvataurwa nevamwe mukapama zvamataurawo imwi, asi mamuchitaura nyaya yemadzimai saka ndazongotendera hangu. Mazvita henyu. Further debate, Honorable Nkana.
Further debate.
No.
Bondo, my apologies.
Nda. Hai. Ndikori ndimasiari mufaro wachidhuro. Ndimasiari mufaro wachidhuro. Avantendere. Zvikopfara nda. Mufaro wachidhuro ndikoima apa. Ndichiimera hebhili yobvawo kana hoyu mulayo unokoudha wovaliwa ngavo minister wa education apa. Nesamurado wa committee ya parliamentary portfolio committee ya education rotuwa ndika team B ramona hotange vo Matabeleland North, South na vo Bulawayo hot rasvika na Midlands na Marsh West. Rachavona kana rachavona uri hoyu mutangano wote uri utanganedze unendi hapa kakakatia yakuchimbidzele kwa mimaraka kana kumakere kwa hedzi examination ngauri hedzi ma-examination bulege anokhoveiwa hone mumwe hangoteya uri huveiwe dziedzema ngauri tsireledzo yamapepa halani aingotoralo kukwata zvamba chimwe chiyambi apa chari hoteya uri huve na system inokova applicable across the board. Chikolo chimwe na chimwe hapo ndodoveiwa dzibhambire dzamulingo hufanane, ndikotenderana nazvozvo yabonisa zvifanane zvonoraro havana taizo yakuchimbidzele futi kwadzibhambire idzi wawana bulege inonga mubhinga rosvika ngemubhinga ge ngachipinga cha mvura sazvezvi hauchimbilei vominista hauchimbilei zviamba uri mwana ari bhinga ulani angasidomwara mulingo da mwana aringe nodhorobhoni ngachipinga chitivi vakozvivona svovo president vone vari mwana mumwe namumwe hangoteya usalira murau ndingazvo richiri mwana ari bhinga namwana ari harare namwana ari bite bridge voteya uri vamwe vari mulingo uyu ngachipinga chitivi zvino zvidoiteya then wambiwa ngali nga mapfungo a mufari anozoimerera heli dzangano lote la Zimsec anokova ndi CEO kana udova director nechanga khumbelo yanga kheli hoyo muthu anozoisiwa uva kha position heyo ngauri ndi position ya vhuṱhogwa vhathu asi position ya swoko khetha muthu ngauri ndi mungana position ya swoko phika muthu ngauri ndi vhuḓulu ndi shaka ngauri rikhoya mahalwani roṱhe ndi position ya u fara shango
tshiṅwe tshiambi tsho amba uri ive muthu ano khou vha u na tshenzhemo, ndi muhaga, ri khou ri ndi muthu ano khou vha knowledgeable, ndi muthu ano khou vha hands on, houḽa ni muthu ano khou farafara, houḽa muthu ano ḓo ḓisa u tshentsha zwithu, i sa vhi muthu ano ḓo swika dzula nṱha tshidulo a ri nzhenzhe a hangwa mushumo. Kharali i muthu ano khou vhuya afho nga maanḓa zwa amba muṅari wa mufumakadzi, ndi a tendelana na zwei vhathu vha vhafumakadzi vha na tshenzhemo, vha na mbavhalelo ya mishumo yavho, vha zwikona. Kanzhi kanzhi ri vhona afha miḓini yashu vhafumakadzi vhone vha no ṅwalisa vhana dzi homework, vha tshi vha itisa mini, ndi vho vhafumakadzi afho. Ndi ri ngavhe a tshi vha mufumakadzi na nṋe ndi a tendela ye. Then hu ḓe kha heḽi fhungo ḽa tshanḓanguvhoni, ri na khou ri kha tshikhuwa corruption, Tshivenḓani ri ndi tshanḓanguvhoni. Muthu ano ḓo vha in charge kana ri ri hoyo director kana ndi CEO ano ḓo vheiwa, havhe muthu o kunaho a sina zwikhukhulisi, a sina zwiṅwe nga fhathungo, ive muthu awe criminal record yawe ive clear, ive muthu wa straight, ive muthu wa ngoho. Ri songo khetha muṅwe muthu o thoma fariwa na dzi pending dzawe nge ra mu isa fhaḽani, vha khou mpfesesa musethe. Kha vha ri mufari wa tshidilo ndi fhedzise nga u rali ngauri hu na thaidzo ya u fha vhathu vha no khou vha vha tshi shuma hange Zimsec, vhadededzi vhaḽa vha no khou maka, vha no khou kereka milingo, u wana vha tshi dzula 2 years no payment. Ri khou ri vho minister kha vhe vha tshi zama nga nḓila dzavho dzoṱhe nga u kona havho uri havhaḽani vhathu vha vhe motivated, kana uri vha vhe na dzangalelo ḽa u shuma, vha ḓipfhe i vhashumi vha ngoho. Kha vha itiwe uri vha badeliwe nga tshifhinga, sa zwino sa tsumbo athi ri vha khou maka ma grade 7 teachers vha khou maka zwa zwino, tshi amba na vho form 4 exam dzi khou makiwa, vho no to fhedza dzi grade 7, mara vhaḽa vhathu vha khou ṱuwa vha songo hola, vha yo dzula almost half a year, no payment, no accountability uri vha ḓo badeliwa lini, vha vhona zwi a demotivate vhashumi ati. So nga heneo ndi khou ri ndo livhuwa nga maanḓa nga mufari wa tshidilo kha khamera.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ndo. Further debate, Honorable Bajila.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for granting me this opportunity to add my voice on the Minister's second reading speech of the Zimsec Amendment Bill. Madam Speaker, most of the issues have been dealt with. My interest around this bill was twofold: the processes prescribed by the bill and the future outlooks of the bill. The process of appointment of board members has been debated by earlier speakers, including the eloquent proposals just made by Honorable Ndo just before me. The process around this deregistration of examination centers has also been belabored upon by earlier speakers. Madam Speaker, the other process that is important is processes relating to the audits of Zimsec by the Auditor General. And I think that the matters relating to this will better be dealt with at the committee stage. I will move to look at the issue of the future outlooks. What are the future processes that are included in this bill, or what are the future processes that we need to include so that our bill looks into the future? First one, Madam Speaker, is the issue of technologies. The bill doesn't speak much about including technologies in the management of our examination systems. earlier speakers, including Honorable Molokele, made reference to need for benchmarks around this bill. I will propose, Madam Speaker, that as the Minister moves further, the Kenya National Examination Council already has digital candidate profiles for candidates who are sitting for their national exams. And this is one issue that we need to look into, and it needs to be spelled out in our Zimsec amendment bill. If you also look at countries such as Rwanda, they are already using artificial intelligence to look at patterns that may make it possible for them to detect examination cheating and so forth. And this inclusion of technology will bring a lot of professional outlook, a lot of development with respect to how we run our examinations. There are lots of areas in the management of our examination where we need to modernize and include technologies. And the bill must speak to that kind of commitment. Madam Speaker, also looking forward, the Zimsec amendment bill must come or be brought as a ground that we are setting as a foundation for regional examinations interpolarity, such that we need to get to a point where people who set for their examinations and their qualifications in Zimbabwe can easily move to further their studies in our region without the need for additional examinations. We also need to move to a situation whereby even people with our own qualifications. So the Zimsec amendment bill needs to establish itself in such a way that it speaks to a foundation for a regional examinations council. We have got SADC here, our regional body. In West Africa, they already have West Africa Examinations Council, where if somebody sits for their examinations, could it be chemistry in Ghana, it will be the same examination for somebody who sat for that in any other country that is a member of the West Africa Examinations Council. And this makes our region to have some sort of a standard, and it makes it possible for our people, as we do skills exchange, to filter and occupy spaces in a seamless manner. So it will be important that the minister finds space to establish Zimsec through the Zimsec amendment bill as a foundation through which we can move to build a regional examinations council. That kind of recognition of our qualifications across board. Madam Speaker, these are the two simple issues I thought I should add without having to repeat myself or to repeat what my earlier colleagues had said. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Bajila. Is there any further debate?
Further debate?
Honorable Shiryadenga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am, for this opportunity. And I also want to thank the Minister for the second reading of this bill. My submission is threefold. The first one is with regards to the mandate of Zimsec. This new, the amendment seeks to give Zimsec the mandate to deregister institutions. As much as it is a welcome move, I would like to set some caution here, in the sense that it seems like Zimsec is being given a blank check. It can simply deregister any institution without consulting anyone. So I would suggest that there is need for oversight in this respect. Possibly the ministry can actually use Zimsec before any deregistration is done, I think it is prudent that they engage the ministry so that they get concurrence. And the second issue on my submission is with respect to the board appointments. The inclusion of professionals in the board is a very welcome move, Madam Speaker, ma'am. And I think it will certainly transform the Zimsec operations and also enhance its integrity and also its operational effectiveness. However, what I think is prudent, Madam Speaker, ma'am, is that in terms of appointments, we have professional bodies. Zimsec also proposed that, for example, they'll need someone with an audit background, someone with an accounting background. Let professional bodies responsible for those sectors appoint individuals to the board. And for your own information, Madam Speaker, ma'am, the Principal Act has already set a precedent with respect to the appointment of lawyers. For example, the names are supposed to be submitted by the Law Society of Zimbabwe. And also the same applies to a person with a background in business, that the CZI should actually submit recommendations. So I think it's all prudent that we allow the professional bodies to actually second names to Zimsec for appointment. And further to that, Madam Speaker, ma'am, I believe there is an omission in the sense that the tenure of those board members is not specified in this amendment. Like the Public Entities Corporate Governance Act does specify that public entities should actually, board members in those public entities should have a tenure of 2 terms, and which are a 4-year period. So I think it's important that in terms of aligning with the laws of this land, Zimsec should take that into account. And lastly, Madam Speaker, ma'am, there is the aspect of offences and penalties, which Zimsec spoke about. I'm glad that in view of the leakages that are happening throughout the country, Zimsec has seen it fit that they extend the offences so that, and also they've actually prescribed penalties which appear to be deterrent and which will also help in enhancing in its effectiveness. However, if my concern with respect to that, it will appear that Zimsec is focusing on the end process with respect to the punitive measures. The focus is on the last person who will be found cheating. However, the process issues, the logistical issues, which would have led, to that person committing that malpractice is not considered. So, Madam Speaker, I strongly feel that in as much as Zimsec wants to curtail malpractices, however, there is the need for the institution to actually tighten its logistical systems. Tightens also not from the school, but even from the printer itself. Most of the leakages that are happening, they are in soft copy, Madam Speaker, ma'am. And the only persons or the only entities that have privilege, that have access to those soft copies is the source. And the source is the printing press. So this is why I strongly feel that as much as, yes, there should be punitive measures for those that will be found committing the malpractice, but the source also needs to be interrogated. The source also needs to be disciplined in this regard, because if that's not going to happen, then we have a problem, Madam Speaker. We will never be able to curtail the malpractices that occur in this country. So, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I support this bill, and I strongly feel that it's long overdue, given that it was the Act was promulgated in 1994. And really, there have been changes, technological, and even our education system, or even the global trends. So really, this bill is a welcome move, save for those issues that I feel they need to be addressed, and those that the other members alluded to earlier. So I submit.
Further debate?
Any further debates?
Further debate?
Is there any further debate? I wanted to look at the ratios. Yes, Honorable. It's Honorable
Mudekunye.
Oh, sorry, Honorable Mudekunye, please proceed.
Maita basa, Madam Speaker. Ndinofara singabviri kuti nyaya yebvunzo yazosvika muno muimba yanga yanyaya yakuti tasida kunyadzisa, asi chinhu chinofadza kuti hurumende yazotora matanho ekuzvigadzirisa. Ndinoona sekuti nyaya huru ndeyekuti vanhu havazi kutembeka pakubata mapepa ebvunzo. Saka iya yemastrong rooms yambotaurwa iyayo inyaya yakanaka sikabviri, asi zvinoda kuti zvinyatsotsanangurwa kuti strong room ingavapo, asi kana makey akava neni ndisina kutembeka ndinogona kungovhura pandadira. Pada kuti zvinyatsojeka kuti achange akabata makey acho ndiani. Tikaenda pamberi tinoona sekuti mazuva ano kwane mishina yeindaneti, vana Starling vanotaurwa vaya. Tinogona kuita strong room are linked to the internet, anotaura kuti ravhurwa nguva yakati uye yavhurwa ari authorized, anobvumirwa kuvhura ndiani. Asi zvikapa kuti dzimwe nguva zvikwanisiro zvingaita zvishoma kana kuti masaisa acho anogona kudonha, tinogona kuda futi kuti tione kuti kumamisha kwatinogara uko ndiani angagona kubata makey, anogona kubatwa naheadmaster here, pamwe nemupurisa here, pamwe neumwewo munhu wecommunity wemunharaunda anogona kuzoti azopa umbowo kuti mapepa takavhura sekuvhurwa kwaaifanirwa kuita nenguva yaaifanirwa kuvhurwa. Tiri ipapo futi ndambonzwa pachinzi panoda kuitwa mabato akazvimirira vakaita savana CZI nemamwe. Zvinhu zvinofadza nekuti minisa vanyatsoratidza kuti vanoda kuti zvinhu zvinge zviri pachena zvisina kuti paiswa handingati vava neukama navo hwakasimba nekuda kwemaprofessional bodies aya. Asi chiripo futi ndeche-audit, ma-audit firms aya kuti apa panodiwa nyaya yekuti zvinhu zvakafamba sei mugwara, zvandingati muchirungu procedures and control measures. Zvinoda kuonekwa kuti zvinhu zvafamba zvakanaka here. Saka ndinofunga kuti ma-auditors ndo nyanzvi dzekuona kuti procedure yakateverwa here patati tichida kuti zvinhu zviteverwe zvinyatsobuda zvakanaka. Saka zvikwanisiro zvichibvuma, dai taisa Starling internet inotaura kubva kufamba kunoita bepa kubva parinobva kuprinting center kusvika rasvika kuchikoro chiri kumusha chekupedzisira. Masefa iwaya achinzi avhurwa na2 o'clock kana kuti avhurwa na5 o'clock. Uye kana zvichibvumira panogona kunyoreswawo kana kuagitredita muchirungu kuti kana munhu ari journalist o chimwe chigaro chaanenge anacho anogona kusvika pachikoro achibvumirwa kuona kuvhurwa kwemapepa. Sekuti kana ndine chikoro changu cheprivate chiya chandoda kuvhura mapepa ndikada kuita zveunzvori, ndinogona kuziva kuti majournalist kana kuti umwe ane chigaro akakreditwa anogona kungosvika achiti tichivhura na10:30 anenge apa kuda kuona kuti mapepa ayavhurwa sekuvhurwa kwakaita here uye asati avhurwa acho achakavharika here zvakaita. Saka tikatendera panyaya iyoyo yekuti tinoita sei kuti muve nemacontrol measures kuti ndisangovhura zamanishoni redu, nofunga zvingatibatsira. Tiri nyika ine mbiri yedzidzo inozikanwa pasi rose nemuno muAfrica. Saka dzidzo iyo inotobva pamazamanishoni ndiwaya. Tingatongozopedza mari nezvese neshungu, asi kana mazamanishoni edu akaita seanoshooreka, zvese zvatinoshandira nembiri yedu nezvatozikana nazvo zvinobva zvaperera ipapa. Saka
panoda kuti panyatso kuongororwa, asi nyaya dzinongoenda pakuti vanhu vatembeka here kuita zvinhu zviri mugwara zvine rukudzo nebvunzo dzedu. Maita basa, Madam Speaker.
Any further debates?
Further debate.
Honorable Mangwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you to the Honorable Minister for this timely bill. Indeed, Zimbabwe has been known world over for its education record. Madam Speaker, as I was preparing for this debate, I took the liberty to talk to practitioners, teachers, item writers, those that have been involved in marking exams, setting the exams, etc. Madam Speaker, ma'am, it got me to remember when I was in high school. In 1996, Madam Speaker, ma'am, just 2 years after this bill was enacted, the time that the exams were still written, Zimsec in association with Cambridge, one minister's daughter was implicated in leaking of exams. The minister resigned in shame, and sadly, we lost the minister by committing suicide. Madam Speaker, ma'am, though it's a sad story, it speaks to the gravity of leakages and how education was valued and how the minister viewed the transgression of his daughter as something that was unheard of, something that was serious a scandal that he could not fathom ever living and looking at his daughter for what she had done to scandalize the education system of this country. Several decades later, Madam Speaker, ma'am, the exams are leaked and shared like confetti and without recourse. Madam Speaker, ma'am, it is unfair to think that by solving problems at the tail end, by penalizing those at the tail end, we have come up with a panacea to leaking of exams. Madam Speaker, ma'am, I talk of this because the majority of cases happen at the source. Madam Speaker, ma'am, it is important that as we speak about the whole management of exams, we plug the leaks on the entire chain. Madam Speaker, ma'am, the bill is mum in terms of what happens to those at the printing press. Madam Speaker, ma'am, the punitive measures are targeted at the tail end.
Order, Honorable Mangwa. Honorable Wende, can you approach the chair? Please proceed.
As this is done, Madam Speaker, ma'am, it is important that the bill seeks to have equal measure of penalties, and penalties are targeted more at individuals rather than institutions. Madam Speaker, ma'am, in as much as the administration of exams is not included, it is important to think of that item writer. It is important to think about, in the same way that we are worried about leaks, it is important that the management of exams speaks highly about the one that invigilates the exams. Madam Speaker, it is important that further than invigilation, it is important that it also speaks to the distribution of the cost of the exam, so that there is much thought about the ones that mark, those that moderate, even those that go the extra mile to make it a watertight process. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I extol the Minister that through this bill, as this may be the only opportunity to amend this bill in the near future, he thinks about how the payments are done. Payments to the teacher, payments to the invigilator,
payments to those that mark the exams. It's important that it's adequate to motivate them, and it's also important that it is paid timelessly. I shall submit.
Further debate?
Further debate, Honorable Makumiri.
Lotenda mbato wechigaro nokunpa mukana wokuti ndiise manzwi angu pa bhiri iri. Mbato wechigaro senyika tiri mudambudziko rokushayikwa kwezvikoro zvinogona kusvika zviuru zviviri. Nokuda kwaizvozvo mubato wechigaro hurumende iri mubishi ichibetserwa navamwe vakasiyana siyana kuti zvikoro zvinge zvichivakwa mumaruwa nedzimwe nzvimbo dzisina. Nokuda kwaizvozvo muchandoona imi kuti kune anonzi minimum standards kana kuti zvepasi pasi zvinotarisirwa kuti chikoro chinge chichivhurwa. Zvimwe zvacho mubato wechigaro muchandoona kuti hazvindokwani pakundopinda pane inonzi exam center. Saka naizvozvo bhiri rinofanira kundobata nyaya nezvikoro zvitsva izvi zvina vana vari kufamba pakareba vachindotsvaga kokudzidza kana kokunyorera bvunzo. Dzova nzvimbo dzinonyorerwa bvunzo, hongu dzinogona kuva nzvimbo dzokunza bvunzo hadzichengetwi ipapo, asi ngapave neatingati dzimwe nguva mobile teams kana kuti imwe senda iri padhuze inochengetwa bvunzo dzechikoro chakandodai, kuti musi wadzinonyorwa iya inonzi mobile team inongotakura bvunzo dzoendwa nadzo pachikoro chiya kuitira kuti vana vasadini, vasanetseka. Chechipiri, mubato wechigaro taishuva kuti dai bhiri ramanikidza hurumende kuti ive nebasa rokuvaka zvimwe zvinotarisirwa pazvikoro zviri kumaruwa kuti zvikwanise kunge zvichipindawo mukategori inonzi exam center. Ndinoda kushuva zvakare mubato wechigaro kuti masenda iwaya dai iri bhiri sezvo tiri kufambirana nechizvino zvino ramanikidza kuti pose panochengeterwa bvunzo pange pakakombwa namaziso echizvino zvino atingati maCCTV. Kunzvimbo dzakandoti sarire mubato wechigaro taishuva kuti dai hurumende yapindira zvakare kuti izvi zvidini zviveko. Izvi zvinoita kuti kunyangwe varombosa vasawanikwa vachindoinda pakaomarara nokuda kwezvirango zvingauya kuti bvunzo dzedu dzinge dziri dzakarurama. Mubato wechigaro ndinoona kuti tinogona kusava nemukana wokuti tinge tichikwenenzvera mutemo unoona nezvebvunzo dzechikoro chapasi nechapamusoro mukati menyika ineyi. Nokuda kwaizvozvo ndaifunga mubato wechigaro kuti bhiri iri dai ranga rapinda zvakare mukundotarisa nyaya dzine chekuita nokudaidzirwa kwemari inofanira kubhadharwa nevanyori vebvunzo. Kukwidzwa kwadzo kunofanira kuti bhiri iri ritaure kuti ngazviuye zvidarike nomuno mukati memba, nokuti nyika yose yakamiririrwa mukati memba ino. Vanhu vopafungwa dzavo kuti iyi mari yawandisa vabereki havangaikwanisi, zvobuda muno zvodzokera. Nyika yose inoti vamiriri vedu havangatirasisi, nokuti kazhinji panokwidzwa dzimari idzi kunoita mheremhere mukati menyika inoyi. Saka ndoona sokuti izvi zvingatibatsira, uyezve dai bhiri iri mubato wechigaro ravauya neurongwa hwehurumende hunotinidzira nyika yose kuti hakuna mwana unokundikana kunyora bvunzo nokuti haana kubhadhara exam fee. Tina vana vakawanda chaizvo mubato wechigaro vari kukundikana kunyora bvunzo dzavo, dzingava dzegrade 7, dzingava dzeform 4 kana form 6 nenyaya yekushayiwa mari. Taishuva mubato wechigaro kuti dai hurumende yangouya nechiga chokuti mwana unenge aonekwawo zvokwadi
vabereki vake vashaiwa, vadzidzisi vane vana kunzoko vanoziva chimiro nemararamiro evana ava. Saka zvakakosha mubato wechigaro kuti paite urongwa ihwohwo kuti hakuna mwana unonzi wakundikana kunyora bvunzo nekushayiwa mari exam fee. Saka bhiri iri ngaribate nyaya dzakaita sedzidzi ndatenda.
Is there any further debate? I recognize the Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, ma'am. I wish to thank the acting chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Primary and Secondary Education, Honorable Mukomberi, for the report he has presented in the House. I need to thank the entire committee for receiving submissions from the public according to the Constitution of Zimbabwe, according to Section 141 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. The issues that the committee raised include the following: that there is need to restore public confidence in the examination system, and that we need to modernize Zimsec governance and publicly punish malpractices. These are the issues which were also debated in the House, Madam Speaker, ma'am. The committee went further to give findings from the submissions that the bill should address the crisis of confidence. I think they were referring to the massive leakages, Madam Speaker, ma'am, which happened especially in 2022 O-level examinations. But I must inform the August House that from 2023 until now, we have never experienced any leakages. Even what was published by the so-called private media was misleading. There were no leakages whatsoever, but we are looking at this bill to find deterrent ways of curbing leakages, Madam Speaker, ma'am. Some of the recommendations made by the committee include timely payments for item writers as well as markers, and that private colleges who are paying a lot of annual subscriptions, that there's need for a review. They also commented on clause 2, which they said the title of CEO instead of director, that the committee has fears that the CEO might demand more incentives. So the committee recommends that the title CEO should be set aside so that the one manning Zimsec remains director. And on clause 3, for imprisonment of 2 years, we support that. Deregistration of examination centers, we support that, but there is need for an appeal committee. That Zimsec cannot unilaterally deregister a center. There must be an appeal committee, perhaps headed by a permanent secretary or by officials from the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. There is several comments which we are going to attend to when we are going to discuss the third reading stage, Madam Speaker. I don't want to dwell much on the recommendations clause by clause, because we'll get to that maybe on Thursday this week or Tuesday next week. I want to thank honorable members for their submissions and contributions. Honorable Mshoriwa says that the bill should align with the Public Entity Corporate Governance Act. I agree with that. We will discuss in detail as we are going to look at the various clauses of the bill. That the bill omitted the appointment of the chairman and the vice chairman of the board. Madam Speaker, ma'am, this is a very important point. We need to know the appointment of the chairperson and the vice chairperson or deputy chairperson of the board. But currently, Madam Speaker, ma'am, if the chairperson is male, automatically the vice chairperson is female. That's what is obtaining right now. If the chairperson is female, automatically the deputy must be male. They also suggested that 2 members should come from public universities instead of 3, and that 2 should come from private university. Yes, I'm in agreement with this, Madam Speaker, ma'am, and that the power to direct as a sender, I think this is repetition here. I think he was emphasizing his point. Honorable Wende vataurawo chaizvo vakanyanya kutsigira nyaya yekuti madzimai ainge achiconstituta 50% muboard. Ipfungwa yakanaka iyoyo yavataura zvinoenderana nebumbiro remutemo. Currently board redu rakawanda madzimai kukunda varume, izvezvi riripo izvozvi takatorimisikidza gore rapera. Kureva kuti ndofunga nyaya yegender inyaya yatiri kukoshesa zvakanyanya iyoyo. Vataura zvakare nenyaya yederegistration. Vazhinji vacho mukaona ndikasataura zvinoreva kuti mune madzokorora zvataurwa nevamwe. Vakatenda kuti kudzikisa nhamba yemaboard members kubva pa30 kusvika pa15 yakakosha, nekuti inoita kuti mari dzenyika dzichengetedzeke, dzisazopfachuka dzichienda kuvanhu vakawanda. Inyaya yakanaka chaizvo iyoyo. Ndoda kutenda honorable Togarepi vataura nenyaya yemachapdoors, kuti panofanira kuva nestandard yemachapdoors anenge aripo. Vakataura zvakare nyaya yevanorarama vakaremara, kuti board iri rinofanira kuvawo nevanhu vakaremara. Ipfungwa yakanaka yatinowirirana nayo. Honorable Jere spoke on the Corporate Governance Act and how the board can be constituted, and that there must be convergence between educationists and industries, since we are implementing the heritage-based curriculum, which emphasizes the need for a whole of societal approach, because we are pursuing research and innovation, and that it is prudent to include in the board members from the private sector, especially from the CZI and many other organs. Honorable Molekele spoke about disability, that we need to include disabled persons in the board. Honorable Mapiki raised a number of issues, and he said that the number of board members should be restricted to 15. He also said, spoke about transportation of examination papers, that we need to tighten the transportation system. Honorable Liwayo, thank you very much for your contribution. As he spoke about people who participate in the leakage, that they should be punished severely. Honorable Pinduka said culprits who contribute to examination leakage should be punished and convicted for 10 years. That's his suggestion. We want to thank you very much. And that markers should be paid allowances timeously, and that Zimsec should distribute examination papers using helicopters. I don't know whether we will afford that, but it's a very good suggestion rather than using road transport. Honorable Muodzeri spoke about 15 members to be appointed in the board. Yes, that is, we are in agreement with that. And he also said, is it Muodzeri? Spoke about a model strong room, that Zimsec should come up with a model strong room, which needs to be adhered to, that all other examination centers should have a model strong room, which will be protected so that there are no leakages. Honorable Ndo said the examination centers should be well secured to safeguard leakages. We agree. And that the chairperson of Zimsec should be a well-educated person. He prefers a woman to be the chair of the board rather than a man. And he also said the CEO should be a person of integrity, should not be corrupt, and we agree with that suggestion. Then on challenges, Honorable Ndo also spoke about allowances of markers, which should be paid on time. Honorable Bajila spoke about the processes leading to the appointment of board members. He suggested that issue of technologies in the management of examination systems should be respected, and that there is need for digital candidate profiles and the use of infusion of AI in ensuring that cheating should be kept. Honorable Shiriedenga spoke about deregistration of senders by Zimsec. I'm sure I spoke about this, and that there must be an appeals committee, and that professional bodies should second names of members who are going to join the board, like Chamber of Commerce can second one person, CZI another one. I think we agree with this, and that the tenure of the board to be specified, e.g. 2 terms of 4-year period. That is exactly what is obtaining, Madam Speaker, ma'am. A person cannot be a member of the board, can only have a maximum of 2 terms, not 3. Penalties for leakages should be deterrent enough, should be punished. Honorable Mudekunye spoke about the software to be put at strong rooms. Once illegal entry is done, culprits will be known. Control mechanisms to be enforced. Thank you very much for that. Honorable Mangwa spoke about the management of examinations, penalties, targeted individuals rather than institutions. Payments to item writers and markers to be done timeously. Honorable Makumire said the bill should consider management of examinations, especially at satellite schools, so that learners do not travel long distances. It's a good suggestion, and what we are doing in the ministry is that we visit satellite schools. Those who have minimum functionality standards, we give them examination status. but we would monitor what obtains at those centers. He even suggested installation of CCTVs at the examination center as a measure to curb leakages. So, Madam Speaker, ma'am, I want to thank all the honorable members who made their contributions through the debate. I thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I put the question that the Zimbabwe School Examination Council Amendment Bill HB 4 2025 be now read a second time. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. Those of the contrary opinion will say no. I think the ayes have it. Order. Honorable members, Honorable Tobayo, you need to be following proceedings. When we stand, everyone must be seated. I'll take that again. I put the question that the Zimbabwe School Examination Council Amendment Bill HB 4 2025 be now read a second time. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. Those of the contrary opinion will say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is accordingly affirmed, and the clerk will read the bill a second time.
Zimbabwe School Examination Council Amendment Bill HB 4 of 2025.
What day for committee, Honorable Minister? Honorable Minister.
Tomorrow, Madam Speaker, ma'am.
Thank you. I recognize the Government Chief Whip.
Madam Speaker, I move that orders number 2 to order number 5 be stood over until order number 6 has been disposed of.
The clerk will read the sixth order of the day. Any seconder?
I second, Madam
Thank
Speaker.
you, Honorable MOYO. The clerk will read the sixth order of the day.
Committee to resume on the consideration of the adverse report by the Parliamentary Legal Committee on the Mines and Minerals Amendment Bill HB 1 of 2025.
Clerk. Let us give the clerk a moment to reread the sixth order of the day.
Number 6, it should be to resume on the consideration of the adverse report by the Parliamentary Legal Committee on the State Services Pension Bill HB 9 of 2024.
The whole House will be in committee.
On a point of privilege, Madam Chair. On a point of privilege.
Yes, Honorable Matsvanyika.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we are requesting that we can get a soft copy of that adverse report. We don't know if it is honorable members. I think it will help us to look into that issue. Thank you.
Okay, so order. The Committee of the Whole House will take into consideration the adverse report from the Parliamentary Legal Committee on the State Service Pensions Bill HB 9 of 2024. Is there any further debate?
Madam Chair, may we be given the report? We are asking for members to be sent the soft copy of the report because we haven't seen it. I sit in the respective committee. I haven't seen the report.
Madam Chair, may I assist? This is a new request. We are willing to provide, but this has never been requested before, and I do not know what the procedure is. But we have no problem with it. It's just that it has never been requested. This is a new request and has never been asked for before. But we are willing to provide the members, perhaps after we finish the proceedings. Madam Chair.
Yes,
we are discussing about an adverse report that was presented in this house, meaning that it's already in the order in the answered. Members, if they want, they can download the answered and read, because it was already presented. If it was a new one, then we would say they need to be favored.
Madam Chair, the Speaker announced today that the
Order, Honorable Bachila, I did not recognize you. We are sorting it out. I recognize Government Chief Whip.
Yeah, I think, Madam Chair, in light of other members' queries, I think why don't we report progress and seek leave to sit again?
It has been moved that I report progress and seek leave to sit again. Is there any objection? No objection, agreed to. I shall now report progress and seek leave to sit again. Madam Speaker, ma'am, the Committee of the Whole House has considered the report of the Parliamentary Legal Committee on the State Service Pensions Bill, HB 9 of 2024, reports progress and seeks leave to sit again.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. It has been moved that, just a moment. What day for resumption of committee, Honorable Acting Chairperson of the PLC? Can you please switch on your mic? Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Government Chief Whip.
So I think this follows also on the 7th order, isn't it? Madam Speaker, I then move that all other orders be stood over until order number 11 has been disposed of.
Any seconder?
I second, Madam Speaker, ma'am.
Thank you. Notice of motion number 11, Honorable V. MOYO.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am, and good afternoon. I rise to present a report on the inquiry by the Portfolio Committee on Information Communication Technology, Postal and Courier Services on the state of digital information centers in Zimbabwe.
Is
Introduction.
there any seconder? Is there any seconder? Who is seconding the Honorable Vimo?
I second, Madam.
Thank you. I call upon Honorable Vimoyo to move his motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, ma'am. I rise to present the report of the findings of the Portfolio Committee on Information Technology, Postal and Courier Services. Introduction. The committee conducted an inquiry into the state of digital centers in Zimbabwe as part of its oversight role in overseeing the programs being implemented by the Ministry of ICT. Digital centers, formerly known as community information centers, have become a cornerstone of Zimbabwe's digital transformation strategy. These centers serve as hubs for public access to ICT services, offering internet connectivity, digital literacy programs, and essential e-government services. The establishment was part of a broader effort to bridge the digital divide, particularly in rural and underserved communities. With over 207 centers now operational across the country, digital centers play a crucial role in fostering technological empowerment, improving access to information, and enabling citizens to participate more effectively in the digital economy. This report provides an update on the progress made in the establishment and operationalization of community information centers, CICs, and containerized village information centers, the CVICs, now rebranded as digital information centers, DICs. Objectives. Number one, to access the current state of the digital information centers. Two, to ascertain the challenges affecting the operations of digital information centers. And three, to proffer recommendations for improvement of digital information centers for the benefit of citizens. Methodology. The committee conducted oral evidence with the Minister of ICT to gain first-hand insights into the progress, challenges, and operational realities of the rebranded community information centers, now known as digital information centers. By engaging directly with the ministry officials, the committees sought to assess whether the initiative was effectively bringing the digital divide between urban and rural areas as intended. Oral evidence provided an opportunity to scrutinize policy implementation, funding allocation, and the ministry strategies for ensuring marginalized communities benefit from digital inclusion. This formal dialogue was essential for accountability, allowing the committee to question gaps and demand actionable solutions from the responsible authorities. To complement the oral evidence, the committee conducted field visits to selected centers in both urban and rural areas, including Concession in Mashonaland Central, Selu, Mashonaland West, Luveve and Bulawayo, and Lupane in Matabele North, amongst others. These visits were crucial for verifying the information provided by the ministry and assessing the actual conditions on the ground. By physically inspecting infrastructure, equipment availability, internet connectivity, and community engagement, the committee could determine whether the centers were operational, accessible, and meeting their intended purpose. The visits also helped balance perspective by comparing underserved rural areas with urban centers, ensuring that an unbiased evaluation of the initiative's impact. Ultimately, the combination of oral evidence and field visits enabled the committee to make informed recommendations for improving digital inclusion across Zimbabwe. Committee's finding. Transition from community information centers to digital information centers in Zimbabwe. The transition from CICs to DICs in Zimbabwe represented a strategic shift by the Ministry of Information, Communication Technology, to align with the country's National Development Strategy, NDS1, which seeks to transform the economy into a digitalized economy by 2030 and aligning with the evolving technological demands. Initially launched in 2016 to bridge the digital divide in rural and underserved areas, DICs provided basic services like internet access, printing, and scanning. However, recognizing the need for more advanced digital solutions, the ministry rebranded these centers as DICs, transforming them into innovation hubs that cater to youth, entrepreneurs, and small to medium enterprises, SMEs. This upgrade introduced enhanced services such as makerspaces with 3D printers and laser cutters, business incubation programs, and digital skills development initiatives, fostering creativity and commercialization of ideas. With 207 centers now operational nationwide, including 159 CICs and 22 containerized village information centers, the DICs aimed to not only improve digital literacy, but also to drive economic empowerment. The transition underscored Zimbabwe's commitment to leveraging digital infrastructure for broader socio-economic development, ensuring marginalized communities are integrated into the digital economy. Services offered at the digital information centers. The committee, during its visits, noticed that the primary service offered were internet access, enabling users to browse the web, access social media, conduct research, and use email services. Some centers, like the Mawabeni Digital Information Center, provided free Wi-Fi, although the bandwidth limitations often restricted the number of concurrent users. For instance, Luveve and Lupane digital centers could only support 8 users at a time. Additionally, many centers offered reprographic services, including photocopying, printing, and scanning, as seen at Inyanga Digital Information Center, which benefited students, entrepreneurs, and community members needing documentation support. Some digital information centers, such as Hillside, conducted basic digital literacy training, teaching fundamental computer skills to school children and other users. Even though structured programs were lacking in most centers due to staffing and connectivity challenges, a standout initiative was the telemedicine services at Rishavane Digital Information Center, where the Zimsec health program provided healthcare consultations, and they demonstrated how digital centers could expand beyond traditional ICT services. Lupane Digital Information Center further enhanced its services by integrating agency banking services in collaboration with NMB and other local banks, allowing residents to conduct financial transactions securely. 5.3. Funding mechanisms for the DICs. The committee was informed that the digital information centers were primarily funded under through the Universal Service Fund, USF, which was managed by the Postal and Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe, POTRAZ. The Universal Service Fund was financed by levies collected from licensed telecommunications operators and was intended to promote universal access to ICT services, especially in underserved and unserved rural areas. POTRAZ utilized the Universal Service Fund to establish and equip community information centers, including infrastructure, internet connectivity via fiber or VSAT, and basic ICT equipment. Once completed, fully equipped, the centers were handed over to Zimpost for day-to-day operations and maintenance. The Ministry of ICT, Postal and Courier Services played a strategic oversight role, aligning centers' development with national digital transformation goals under NTS 1. The committee noted that services such as internet access and basic computer training were offered free of charge, while printing and scanning was provided at subsidized rates. Challenges: connectivity across digital information centers. During its site visits to various digital information centers, the committee observed persistent and escalating connectivity challenges that continue to severely constrain operations and service delivery. The committee noted that the several centers have experienced extended periods without internet access, effectively disrupting communication, reporting, and digital public service delivery. For example, the Selous Center had remained offline since August 2024 with no resolution in sight. Moreover, Hillside Center had faced similar downtime since April 2024, leaving staff unable to access critical online platforms and systems. At the concession center, the committee found that the internet connection operated at just 17 megapixels. Nyanga and Macheke centers have also endured sustained outages, further deepening the digital exclusion experienced by local communities. When the committee visited the Macheke Center, the committee observed a complete collapse of internet services attributed to a transmitter failure. The center has been operating in a fully offline state with all ICT-enabled services suspended, underscoring the urgent need for infrastructure, rehabilitation, and technical support. The committee further observed that none of the centers have backup internet infrastructure, such as secondary ISP links, mobile broadband devices, or satellite connectivity. This absence of contingency mechanisms means that even short-term disruptions resulted in complete operational downtime, exposing a critical vulnerability in digital service. Power supply at DICs. The committee noted the persistent power supply disruptions across multiple digital information centers continue to undermine service delivery, digital inclusion efforts, and operational efficiency. The frequent load shedding and prolonged outages, for example, at centers such as Macheke, have experienced severe disruptions, including an extended 6-month power blackout, which effectively halted service delivery. There was absence of backup power infrastructure, for example, at Luveve and concession centers operated without any form of alternative power backup, which rendered them fully vulnerable to grid outages and undermining digital continuity. Limited solar capacity were in place only at Lupane and Mawabeni, with Mawabeni 5 kV solar system offering limited coverage for essential equipment. However, these installations are not sufficient to fully power operations during extended outages. The committee noticed that the operational potential was undermined by outdated, insufficient, and underutilized ICT equipment. These hardware constraints not only limit service delivery, but also reduce the center's capacity to deliver on national digitization, skills development, and e-governance goals. Several desktop units across multiple sites have deteriorated processing speeds, insufficient memory, and outdated operating systems that are incompatible with modern software requirements. Furthermore, the ratio of devices to users was alarmingly low, especially during peak periods of training sessions. Luveve operated with only 9 laptops, while Nyanga maintained 11 desktops, far below the demand generated by digital skills training, youth empowerment programs, and public access services. Many centers were still reliant on first-generation ICT hardware procured during initial rollout phases, now well beyond the optimal service life. For instance, at Rishawan Center, it experienced persistent issues with non-functional printers, delayed documentation services, and impending workflows reliant on hard copy outputs. The committee saw that there was lack of assistive devices for persons with disability, including screen readers, adaptive keyboards, or hearing support technologies, thereby excluding individuals with impairments from equitable access to services. Human resource constraints. The committee noticed that there was persistent staffing limitations, which presented critical operational challenges across digital information centers. These issues affect service continuity, institutional memory, and the overall quality of digital access and support offered to communities. Centers such as Rishabane and Concession reported frequent turnover, primarily driven by low, inconsistent remuneration. In the absence of competitive salaries, experienced agents often leave for more stable or better paying opportunities, resulting in constant onboarding cycles and loss of institutional knowledge. Some centers were managed by a single attendant, as seen in Zinshawane, where one individual was responsible for equipment supervision, client engagement, administrative tasks, and general facility management. The lack of dedicated technical personnel also meant that IT troubleshooting, connectivity support, and hardware maintenance were delayed and outsourced inconsistently. Capacity gaps in DICs. The committee recognized that there was an absence of structured capacity building frameworks, which continued to undermine the effectiveness, credibility of digital information centers. Specific gaps include center staff, including those at Rishawane and Mawaben, often beginning their roles without any prior formal training in the ICT systems, relying instead on informal learning or peer support. This gap compromised the quality and consistency of services rendered to the public. There was no uniform induction on professional development framework for center agents across sites. As a result, competencies varied widely by location and individual, impeding the implementation of standard operating procedures or coordinated programming across centers. The committee noticed that staff capacity was largely confined to basic computer use and introductory internet navigation, with minimal ability to support more advanced digital skills. Service delivery and usage patterns. The committee saw that some centers, like the one in Luveve, got very few visitors, only about 20 people a day. This might be because people did not know about the center and its services, and it did not match what people need. Centers in rural or out-of-town areas were often open but remained empty for most of the day. Most users were between 15 and 35 years of age. They mostly came to use the internet and the basic ICT tools. Older adults, women, people with disabilities, farmers, and small business owners rarely used the centers. This showed a lack of outreach to different groups and community awareness. Further, there was poor synergies at the centers visited by the committee, which showed the need to rebrand not just a name, but the buildings where the centers are located. Security and security challenges. The committee discovered that the centers were facing serious security and safety problems. At the Mawabeni Center, there was no formal security, no guards, no cameras, making it easy for thieves or intruders to break in, especially at night. A few places like the Lupane Center were safer because they shared space with banks or official buildings and benefit from their security setups, including CCTV cameras, but these cases were rare. Moreover, the Nyanga Center has damaged ceilings that could fall and hurt someone. The lack of security threatened not only the physical assets, but also long-term sustainability. Theft or damage of computers, routers, or solar panels can set centers back for months, particularly where replacement funding were unavailable. Poor maintenance, both for infrastructure and equipment, accelerate wear and reduce useful life, undermining the value of initial investments. Madam Speaker, ma'am, this takes me to the committee's observations. Rebranding the CICs to DICs, the committee observed that the rebranding from community information centers to digital information centers reflects Zimbabwe's commitment to digital transformation under NDS1. However, many centers still operated at basic levels, offering only internet access and reprographic services. The transition remained largely nominal in several locations, lacking the full technological and service upgrades emphasized. Inconsistent service delivery. The committee noted that digital information centers still suffer from severe connectivity issues, with some, e.g., Salou and Hillside, experiencing prolonged outages due to infrastructure failures and no backup systems. Power supply, frequent power disruptions cripple operations, with only a few centers like the Lupane and the Mawabeni having limited solar backup. The committee observed that shortage of equipment, which was outdated, also affected service delivery. Limited and uneven usage. The committee recognized that there was limited usage of as low as daily visitors of up to about 20 people, like the one reported in Luveve. This suggests poor awareness, most users being that of the age between 15 and 35, while older adults, women, farmers, and entrepreneurs remained underserved. Funding and sustainability. The committee recognized that digital information centers relied heavily on the USF fund, but maintenance and upgrades were inconsistent. Free basic services, internet and training, and subsidized printing suggest a pro-community model, but financial sustainability was unclear, especially with recurrent operational challenges. Human resource and capacity deficit. The committee observed that most of the centers experienced high staff turnover due to low wages, and this weakened institutional knowledge. Furthermore, lack of formal training for center agents results in uneven service delivery quality and limits advanced digital skills dissemination. Security measures. The committee noted that many centers lacked security measures, guards, CCTV, increasing theft and vandalism risk, poor maintenance, damaged ceilings like the one witnessed in Nyanga. This poses a safety hazard and accelerates equipment degradation. Accessibility for people living with disability. The committee observed with concern that digital information centers currently lacked adequate infrastructure and services to accommodate persons living with disability. The centers do not have essential accessibility features such as wheelchair ramps, assistive technologies, screen readers, braille displays, or specialized workstations tailored to cater for different physical and sensory needs. Madam Speaker, ma'am, I now move over to the committee recommendations. Based on the findings, the committee recommended the following measures. 1, the Ministry of ICT, in collaboration with portals, should ensure the provision of high-speed, reliable connectivity solutions, preferably through the adoption of satellite technologies like Starlink across all the centers by the 30th of June 2026. The Ministry of ICT and portals should prioritize the installation of adequate solar power systems through the USF Fund project at all centers by the 30th of June 2026 to ensure uninterrupted service delivery. Thirdly, the ministry and portals should ensure proper maintenance and refurbishment of deteriorated buildings, signage for better visibility and replacement of damaged or obsolete ICT equipment for the provision of safe and effective center operations by the 31st of December 2026. The Ministry of ICT, in collaboration with Zimpost and portals, should introduce fair remuneration packages and structured training programs for digital center agents by the 31st of December 2026. The Ministry of Information and portals should immediately launch community outreach campaigns and structured ICT training programs to raise public awareness, drive engagement, and optimize the utilization of digital centers. These initiatives should focus on educating communities, particularly in rural and the unserved and underserved areas, on the benefits and functionalities of CICs, ensuring that citizens can fully leverage on their available digital resources. The Ministry of ICT should install surveillance systems, establish secure access controls, and ensure the availability of water and other basic infrastructure across all centers by 31st of December 2026. Ministry of ICT must ensure that digital centers are upgraded to include disability-friendly features such as ramps, braille, signage, and adaptive workstations by the 31st of December 2026. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, ma'am, the committee acknowledges the vital role that the DICs plays in promoting digital inclusion and economic empowerment. However, the rebranding from CICs to DICs remains largely superficial, with little tangible progress to show for it. More concentrated efforts are needed to ensure that this transition translates into meaningful improvements that truly benefit the citizens. Strategic interventions must be implemented to address existing challenges, enabling these centers to effectively bridge the digital divide and enhance access to ICT resources for communities. Assessments of various digital information centers across different regions, including resilient facilities like those in Lupane and Mawabane, have highlighted both advancements and ongoing gaps in service delivery, particularly in internet access, digital literacy training, and reprographic services. Moving forward, a stronger commitment to operational and infrastructure development will be essential to maximize the impact of these centers. I so submit, Madam Speaker, ma'am. Thank you.
The question before the House is a motion by Honorable V. MOYO that this House considers and adopts the report of the Portfolio Committee on Information, Communication Technology, Postal and Courier Services on the state of digital centers in Zimbabwe, SC 25 of 2025. Is there any debate? I recognize Honorable Mapiki.
Maita basa mbatu echigaro ndoda kutenda zvikuru komiti yeICT ichitungamirirwa naHonorable MOYO nebasa ravakaita rokutsvagurudza nokufamba vachiona kuti zvinhu zvakamira zvakadii. Maererano nematauriro avaita zvanga zvichiratidza kuti nyaya yeCommunity Information Center hazvina kumira zvakanaka, nekuti mutungamiriri wedu wenyika anoti hakuna nzvimbo inofanira kusaririra panyaya dzechizvino-zvino chokufambiswa kwemashoko. Saka zviri kuratidza kuti dzimwe nzvimbo dzinenge dzichisaririra, asi mutungamiriri wenyika anenge ane gwara rakanaka rinoita kuti zvinhu zvifambe zvakanaka. Ministry yeICT inofanira kutarisisa chirongwa ichi chakauya nehurumende chinofanira kubatsira vanhu vekumaruwa nevanhu vekumaguta kuti chionekwe kunzi chiri kufamba zvakanaka here. Kune dzimwe nyika vanotoisa senda hombe iyo yavazotaura wekomiti kuti vanofanira kunge pane chinzi digital center. Ndo chaizvo chaizvo zvikuita kunyika dzakawanda, kunana Ghana, kunana Kofi Annan Center of Excellence, kunana Kenya, kunana Jomo Kenyatta Center of Excellence. Vanhu ivava vanoisa senda hombe yenyika yese. Senda hombe iyoyo ndo inoita mabasa akasiyana-siyana anozokuita nenyaya dzemasaisai. Vanotoiti entrepreneurship Center of Excellence, iri digital entrepreneurship Center of Excellence. Vanotovaka senda inobata zvakasiyana-siyana zvinosanganisa zvana data protection nezvimwe zvakadaro, zvana cyber security inenge yakaitwa ipapo. Saka kana yakuenda kumaruwa, yakuenda yakudaidzwa kuti ndo mabasa emaoko anoitwa, asi anofanira kunge akabatanidzwa nemamwe maministry akuita zvakasiyana-siyana. Tine vari kuita ma-innovation center woku higher and tertiary wokuma-university vari kuita nyaya dzema-innovation center. Vanofanira kunge vakabatanidza nevari kuita nyaya dzavakuti ma-digital center kana kuti community information center. Mamiriro akaita ma-community information center ari kumaruwa kana ari kwaari pari kuratidza kuti zvinhu hazvina kumira zvakanaka, nekuti waitaisa makombiyuta malaptop anenge anepo ndeekare kare. Ukaona mamiriro akaita anofanira kuitwa macho manga muchiratidza kuti zvinhu hazvisi kufamba zvakanaka. Zvimwe zvacho zvairatidza hazvo kuti ndofunga basa iri rakazoitwa wanzwa kuti komiti iri kufamba, asi pavakanga vakagara havo zvinhu zvichakanaka pairatidza kuti panga pasina zvinhu zviri kuitwa. Izvo zvinozoita kuti vanhu vatinenge vachinzi nehurumende vange vachionawo chouviri kana vachiita zvekubhenefita vange vasingabhenefite zvakanaka. Kuno mamwe manzvimbo paitoratidza kuti vanhu vanogara munharaunda vanga vasingazive kuti ndo itoripowo inenge iri ipapo. Vanhu vanga vaitoratidza kuti patakasvika pano vanhu vashoma-shoma vanenge vachiratidza kuti zvinhu zvavanofanira kunge vachitoziva zvichivabatsira. Saka seministry yeICT inofanira kutogara pasi yotanga kugadziridza zvakanyanya panyaya iyoyo kuti ma-digital center aya akaiswa recommendations nemakomiti kuti anga aripo, anga achiratidza kuti anenge ari echizvino-zvino. Saka pane basa rakanyanya rinofanira kuti ministry yeICT inge ichikwanisa kunge ichiita kuti zvinhu zvakaitwa nehurumende zvifambe zvakanaka. Kune dzimwe nyika ma-digital center akutokwanisa kuunza unyanzvi vakabatana nedzimwe nyika wokutoti vakutokwanisa kugadzira madrones vari pama-digital center ipapo, angave wekuagriculture, angave wekupatrora anoshandiswa nepolisi kana anotoshandiswa panyaya dzekurwa hondo. Ndofunga tikaenda kunana Japan, kuSouth Korea, kwete kuJapan, Japan inazvo, asi South Korea inotokwanisa kutoti vanhu ivo vachitaudza madrones akutoita basa rekutodhirivhara kana chikafu kuenda kune vanhu vakwegura vaya, kana kunoona kuti vakwegura vacho vari muarea imomo here madrones anenge achitopatrora anenge achitogadzirwa kuma-digital center ikoko. Saka kuno seZimbabwe toda kuti ministry inge yakati simbei irakidze kuti chizvino-zvino hatimbobva takachinzvenga kana kuti takachitiza, nekuti ndicho chatinenge takufanira kuita. Nyaya imwe yakawanikwa iripo inyaya yekuwanikwa kwemari inokwanisa kushandiswa. Nofunga seministry inofanira kunge yakasungunuka kuti ishandise urongwa hwehurumende hwepublic private partnership. Vanofanira kuti vanhu vari kuita mabasa akasiyana-siyana kunzvimbo ikoko ange vachinge vachiwirirana nawo kuti vavabatsire panyaya dzokuti vaone nyaya yefunding. Pane urongwa hwehurumende hwapo hwavari kuti economic empowerment trust iyoyo inofanira kunge iri imwe mari yokuti zviri kuitwa kunzvimbo ikoko nevanhu vari kuinvesta kuarea ikoko, mari iyoyo kana yauya inofanira kunge ichienda inoiswa kumadigital center iyayo kuita kuti vanhu vari ikoko vanatse kuona chouviri. Mari dzinobva dzema-MP dzeCDF panyaya yefunding vanofanira kunge vane policy kana kuti vane urongwa ivo ministry hwakatambanuka husina nyaya dzekuswera vachiti anenge aida kuvabatsira vanosimba vachinzvenga-nzvenga. Vanofanira kunge vane open door policy nokuti vanhu vanenge vachida kubatsira vobatsira. Mari dzeCDF dzinokwanisa kuenda dzichinobatsira, mari dzedevolution dzikuya sehurumende dzinofanira kuenda ikoko zvakare dzichivabatsira. Saka panofanira kunge pachishandwa zvakakwana neministry yeICT. Tine maministry akawanda ari kuita mabasa akasiyana-siyana. Tine vamwe Ministry of Youth vari kuita zvema-vocational training center. Panofanira kunge pane vanoti pachirungu the whole government approach. Maministry ese anofanira kunge achitaura pamwe chete tichiita basa redu tiri pacenter pamwe chete. Nokuti takatarisa mapost office makaiswa digital center munhu ari kune imwe nzvimbo mapost office akaiswa kare achiri kusevhawo panguva iyoyo zvakanyanya panguva yevarungu vanga vakatenderedza. Asi sokuzowanda kwaita seZimbabwe panyaya dzemaresettlement, panyaya dzekumwe kugadzikana kwataita kubva kupost office kana kuti kuinformation center ikoko kuenda kune vamwe vanhu toti fanike parupani kuti vazonoenda kumwe kure kure kwana chorocho nokumwe kwakadaro kuti vafambe vachiuya vachizoona dzidzo ipapo kana kuti zvinoshandiswa ipapo kunenge kuri kure. Saka panofanira kuti ministry iyoyi igare pasi nemaministry akasiyana-siyana. Ministry of Women Affairs ine maprogram airi kuita nemaofisa ayo ari kumawadzi kana kumavillage. Vanofanira kutora iyoyo conduit yacho kana kuti pipe iyoyo inodzikisa information vonoita yavanoti pachirungu information infrastructure share kana kuti vatima hakuna kuti vanofanira kuti kana ministry youth ine vocational training center vanofanira kuti ivo vaonewo kuti seministry yeICT iise information center kana digital center pavocational center kuitira kuti vanhu vese vanobhenefita ikoko uye hazvivadhurire kuti vange vachitanga kuvaka zvinhu panyowani. Pane zvimwe zvinowanika neministry of youth zvakafanana nemakombiyuta kana malaptop, pane zvinowanikwa neministry yewomen affairs. Zvese kuwadzi ikoko kana kuvillage ikoko zvinenge zvavakuwanika. Saka ndofunga ndodzimwe pfungwa dzapanofanira kunge pachiitwa neministry of ICT kuitira kuti urongwa hwehurumende hurege kunge hunosarira kumashure, nokuti chirongwa ichochi kunyika dzakawanda chiri kuitwa ende chiri kubatsira vanhu vakawanda. Vanhu vanofanira kunge vachiwana chouviri zvakanyanya. Vanhu vanoita tumabhizinesi twavo tudiki ari pakati neari pamberi peri vanofanira kunge vachiona information. Vari kuita nyaya dzeagriculture vanofanira kunge vachiona information vachishandisa ipapo. Saka paakuda kuti seministry inofanira kumira zvakakwana kuitira kuti basa rayo rifambe zvakanaka. Asi toda kutenda komiti nemafambiro ayakaita nemaitiro ayakaita. Nyaya dzeICT neministry yeICT magadgets akawanda vanenge vanawo. Takatarisa nyaya dzekuti nyaya yenetwork yavataura vane Starlink ari kuitwa zvenhingi zviya vari kupuhwa maorganization akawanda. Vanofanira kunge vachipuhwawo vanhu vachikwanisa kuitawo kana vakapuhwa ine 25 meter range kana kuti toti kilometer range, nokuti vanawo vari pasaidi ipapo vamwe vanoshaya vamwe vanoita vanenge vachikwanisa kubata network vachikwanisa kuitawo research nezvimwe zvakadaro. Saka izvozvo zvinofanira kuti zviitwe mabazi ehurumende akabatana, nokuti pamwe unoona pakuita njake kuti uyo akuita nezvake uyo akuita nezvake, asi zvinhu zvinokwanisa kuita kuti zvinge zvichifamba. Zviri kuitwa nowanopa anonzi maservice provider vanopa masaisai vana Econet vana Telecel nana Net1 vakuita nyaya yeinfrastructure share. Vari kukwanisa kuisa zvinhu zvavo pamwe chete zvinhu zvofamba zvakanaka zvobva zvarerukira vanhu. Aiwa ndati nemashoko mashoma ndatiwo nditaure ndichitenda komiti iyoyi maita basa mubato wechigaro.
Thank you, Honorable Mapiki. Any further debates? I recognize Government Chief.
Madam Speaker, I move that the debate do now adjourn.
Who seconds?
I second, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved that the debate be now adjourned. Is there any debate? I put the question that the debate be now adjourned. Those who have that opinion say aye. Those of the contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The question is accordingly affirmed and the debate is adjourned to what day, Kabichifu?
Or Madam Speaker.
The debate is adjourned to tomorrow.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Who seconds?
I second, Madam Speaker, ma'am.
It has been moved that the House do now adjourn. Is there any debate? I put the question that the House do now adjourn. Those who have that opinion will say aye. Those of the contrary opinion will say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The question is accordingly affirmed and the House is adjourned. To what day, Government Chief Whip?
To tomorrow, Madam Speaker.
The House is adjourned to tomorrow.